In space, everything is infinite. Innumerable galaxies. No beginning, no end. Space. An unquantifiable, expansive expanse.
How to quantify the expansiveness?
Não dá pra quantificar o inquantificável.
Tell us more.
But one day, the galaxies began to collide. Time and space became limited. Competition, a fight for survival, took shape. And the galaxies demanded the champion.
This totally makes sense.
Wait, she gets to do the whisper thing too?
Por que a gente tá sussurrando?
宇宙里哪来的声音啊？
For months, the Earth's greatest tacticians battled it out across the globe, transcending both time and space.
That doesn't sound physically possible.
Eles acabaram de competir em classificatórios online e regionais.
我怀疑他不懂天体物理，他单纯在整活儿。
To prove themselves worthy of competing in the ultimate competition of competitive competitors.
Okay, that is just lazy adjective use.
Alguma parte disso faz mais sentido em inglês?
我是来帮大家了解云顶之弈银河战争总决赛的。
You guys, that's what I'm doing. But anybody can say, hey, the first ever TFT global event is finally happening September 3rd and the 4th, where 16 of the world's greatest tacticians will be battling it out for their piece of the $200,000 prize pool. But I'm trying to have fun with it. Sick. You heard the astrophysicist. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Teamfight Tactics Galaxies Championship. This is the first ever TFT global event, and we have 16 world-class tacticians eager to be the first ones to claim that championship title. I'm your host, May, and allow me to introduce to you the casters that will be taking us through all the action in today's event. We have, starting off, Doa, Latigris, and Primal. Are you guys excited for some TFT action today?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously. It's a Galaxies Championship.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Now, Latigris, we were here to kick off the Galaxy set and basically release it to the world. So just how crazy is it that we were there on release and now we're all the way at the finals?
Yes, seeing everything come to the forefront right when Galaxies was released, and now we have to bid it farewell. So it's a little bittersweet in that way, but I'm excited. This is literally the first thing worth anything that I'm doing here. So no excitement around me on the background, but I got it in my heart, and that's what matters.
You're the shining beacon in your room, honey. That's all we need from you. But Doa, I mean, we've spoke about this, man. You've casted almost every single major TFT competitive event. So what can you tell me about this competitive landscape now that we've reached the pinnacle of play?
Well, it's great because we've had region versus regions in the past, of course, but we've never really had it on this scale with like this level of competition. So that's great. The meta's in an awesome place. It's really wide open. There's a lot of stuff that's good. So players can have like their own style. There's regional differences as far as how people approach the game. So it's fascinating right now, and I'm just excited to get into the game and like be a nerd for like 10 hours today. Not that I'm not a nerd for all the other hours of every day, but you know, a TFT nerd specifically.
Being a nerd is a 24/7 job, Doa. I think we've all learned and accepted it at this
hard
point.
work, but somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, no, of course. Primal, I just noticed you just put on the face paint. That was not there this morning in rehearsal. Where did that come from?
Well, I figured TFT is war, so we need the war paint for TFT. So I'm ready. Are you?
We're ready. Let's go.
Right.
You're ready, Primal. I mean, I know that you specifically, you just recently left Riot to pursue playing and streaming TFT. So I think you can honestly really relate to the journey that some of these players have gone through.
Yeah, I've had the privilege of playing with some of these players, even getting coached by some of them, like Mismatch Socks. So, you know, hopefully next World Championship, I'll be playing there. But it's such a privilege to get to commentate these guys because they're the absolute best players in the world. And some of the decisions these guys are able to make absolutely blow my mind as someone who plays this game 24/7 already.
Well, it's super exciting to hear from our three casters who are going to kick us off. We also have Becca and Crowan joining us throughout the day, so stay tuned if you want to see those players try out their casting chops. But of course, we need a Galaxy-brained analyst to help us with the Galaxies Championship. So allow me to introduce to you Whitrock, who's here to help us break down today's action. Now, Whitrock, you were also here when we released the Galaxy set. So do you think we're going to see any competitive surprises for you to break down today?
Yeah, I'm excited to see kind of all these different regions clashing. We've been in a fairly stable meta for a while, so I want to see if any of these players have kind of been cooking up their own unique strategies on the ladder in the last couple weeks, or maybe in private sessions, and kind of see what they can bring to this competition.
Definitely. Now, I know that since TFT put the S in Riot Games, players have been begging for any sort of, competitive play. So why don't you guys take a look at the birth of TFT Esports?
I'm TJ. I'm the lead producer on Teamfight Tactics.
Hi, I'm Waylon Roselle. I'm the Senior Director of Esports at Riot Games.
When we were first making TFT, esports wasn't actually top of mind, but once we saw the players' passion and demand, that passion is kind of what sparked us knowing that esports was the right next move.
We knew last year that we weren't ready for global competition, but we knew that the demand was growing. Invitational sort of gave us an outlet to create a more controlled environment that allowed us to test things like competitive formats and broadcast formats. The positive reaction to the Invitational really gave us confidence as we were planning our competitive ecosystem. We believe that TFT is a game that is played and enjoyed all over the world, and we thought that the esports should reflect that. And that's why the TFT Galaxies Championship has representation from players who've competed from all these different regions and are coming together to vie for the crown.
And because we refresh the set every 6 months, we wanted that to be the staple of who is the best player this set. Because each set brings different mechanics and requires different skills to kind of prove if you are the best. So we wanted to kind of put a stamp on, hey, for Galaxies, this was the best player.
The best part of seeing esports during Galaxies was just seeing all the different tournament organizers across the globe in many different regions. I'd say that the biggest learning is that we have this wonderful community of competitive TFT fans, whether they're tournament organizers or pros or fans, and we can do a better job of integrating their efforts into sanctioned competition of TFT going forward.
One of the major key learnings throughout TFT set development is that we actually need to invest in tools that make the esports experience better for viewers, for third-party developers, and for us.
Our dream is to have really, really large TFT tournaments where people of all skill levels can enter and compete, and that's only going to happen when we provide the tooling to tournament organizers to run large events.
Now that we know that this is something that we want to invest in long-term, we'll be putting in the effort to make the experience of TFT esports and everyone watching a much, much better experience.
The best part of Galaxy's competitive was just seeing the various regional leagues, the tournament organizers in those regions, and how they approach competitive TFT. One of the things that we heard loud and clear prior to Galaxies was they wanted higher stakes and an opportunity to showcase their skills on the biggest stages.
The ladder is a way for you to kind of get qualified for TFT tournaments and TFT qualifiers to then make your way up to the World Finals, so that anyone and everyone has an option to be the best player for TFT.
The Galaxies Championship was created for just that purpose, and to give incentives and rewards for people to dedicate their time to competitive TFT, to give them a goal. And we think that it provided a community with a reason to fight for their place in the ladder, to push themselves, to learn all the sets, and to really keep their skills sharp. I think crowning the first region as TFT champion will be exciting, and giving a chance to see the best of the best compete. It's just one of these things with competition where those who got here through skill and hard work and determination, and seeing that pay off and taking home a title is something that I'm looking forward to seeing in TFT. I think that's the beauty of TFT, is competitive, it's strategic, but it's also a super fun experience, and I think it's able to bring a whole new generation and a new type of fan. Esports is accessible to everyone around the world, ideally.
This global championship has been a long time coming, and I personally can't wait to see which of our 16 tacticians here today are going to be the first to claim that #1 TFT championship title. So without further ado, let's go ahead and throw it over to our casters to get us into the action.
Thank you so much, Avali. We are the casters that will be kicking things off for our very first lobby of the day, joined by Doa and Primal. So much to look forward to. So first things first, Doa, you've been so involved within the TFT scene, seeing the competitive aspect grow. What has it been like seeing the community also respond, getting tighter and tighter, and certain individuals really coming to the forefront of competition?
Well, I mean, the level of competition has just gone up exponentially, right? Because, like, some of the things, it's like any sport, right? Where, like, initially, like, doing an ollie on a skateboard was, like, the best trick in skateboarding, and now it's, like, the first trick everybody learns. So it's the same in TFT, where now, like, some of the things, like, oh, wow, he has 50 gold almost throughout the whole game. How does he do it? Now, like, managing your economy like that is, like, one of the very first things you need to learn in TFT. So the players are just getting better and better, and even though the sets change, some of those fundamentals kind of can keep developing independently of it because they exist in every set. So I think just, like, the level of play in terms of being able to switch between comps throughout the game, you know, if the opportunity or the demand arises, or handling your economy in different situations, reading the lobbies better, like, just a level of play has increased so much, and it's so fun to see because the game is so incredibly deep. So that's been the most fun part for me this year.
It's great to have a scene where even though certain things evolve, certain skills are always going to be needed to be worked upon. And Primal, Avali mentioned that you have actually made the transition to pursuing a pro player yourself. You've been streaming. What is it about the competitive scene here that attracted you to make that jump, as many of the people competing in this tournament are looking to do as well?
Yeah, you know, TFT sort of scratches a cerebral itch for me that pretty much no other game has ever done. And I think it's because it's just so incredibly deep, right? When you think about, as Doa mentioned, like econ management, positioning, you know, there's so many different aspects of the game to master. So it feels like every single game of TFT, I'm constantly learning. And that's why I love the game, and I think these players love it too.
And part of this competitive format we have today is to put all of this on display, the skills these players have been working on. So let's find out exactly how they will be in pursuit of that championship status.
For the first time in the history of the universe, the best players in the world will be recognized with a global event to determine who is the Teamfight Tactics Galaxies Champion. Throughout the Galaxies set, players have showcased their amazing skill in competitive regional events. They fought for pride, prizes, and the chance to qualify for regional finals. From those epic battles, 16 talented finalists emerged, ready to compete remotely for the title of Galaxies Champion. The championship will split the 16 competitors into 2 lobbies. Each lobby will play 5 games, with players earning points based on their finish in each game. The 4 finishers with the most points from each lobby will move on to Day 2 and the finals. The format changes up in the finals, with competitors racing to accumulate 18 points. Once a tactician secures 18 points, their next win will earn them the Teamfight Tactics Galaxies Champion crown and their portion of the $200,000 prize pool. As we say farewell to the Galaxies set, Day 3 of the event will introduce a brand new set, Fates. The top 8 from the Galaxies Championship will debut the new set, alongside personalities from the League of Legends community. The dedication and passion of the Teamfight Tactics community is what has made TFT esports a reality. We look forward to growing Teamfight Tactics together.
16 players, 2 different lobbies, 8 of which will be moving on to the final day tomorrow. But everybody does have to get through 5 games before they can do so. Primal, considering that they are guaranteed to have 5 different lobbies, and we're in a pretty stable place in the meta, do you expect anyone to bring out something wild or something they might have been crafting on their own to try and set things off to the right start for themselves?
Yeah, you know, so there's been some interesting changes, I guess, over the last 24 to 48 hours with the introduction of the Big Bang Galaxy. I think that galaxy, which is basically a combination of Treasure Trove, Trade Sector, and Super Dense, gives rise to some pretty interesting options in terms of the comps that you can run. It's actually a lot more forcible to run certain comps in that galaxy. So I'm actually curious to see if we see sort of a convergence on reroll comps, like Master Yi reroll or Shredder with Zaya carry, or if we see people sort of stick to what they've been playing over the course of the set, but with better chance to high roll.
You mentioned the fact that some players might stick to what they know. Doa, you were casting one of the qualifiers leading up to this, and it does seem like some decided to have their archetypes that they stuck to, while others were more flexible and had that experimentation. Which do you think will come out on top here today?
I think we're just going to see players play their normal game today. Some players will choose to focus on a specific comp depending on the lobby that they're running into. They'll like research the tendencies of the players that they're playing against. But I think overall, where you've got so many players from so many different regions, and it can be a little bit difficult to research some of those players sometimes, I think people are just going to play, you know, their best game really. And as far as like a specific comp goes, it seems like the only one where people are saying, all right, I am just like doing this no scout, no pivot is a Six Blade Master, Yi carry. We've seen a couple different players try just going that. I'm not convinced that that's the best way to play it, but we've seen success, we've seen not success with that. But if anyone's going to focus on one comp, I think that's the one it's going to be. You agree, Primal? What do you think?
Yeah, so it's interesting.
Go ahead.
Oh, yeah,
Go ahead,
it's funny. When someone's a one trick, it's kind of, there's an interesting psychology, right? Because let's say, you know, someone's going to play Master Yi reroll. You kind of don't want to contest it because that's kind of just griefing both of you. So it might be, we see some players just force a comp in the first game, be like, look, this is my comp for this tournament. You need to step off. I'm playing this every single game, which would be a huge alpha move. So I'm hoping someone does it.
Some of these are players that people are very familiar with the styles that they like to execute. Others are a bit more unknown. So for everyone in the audience that may have had some difficulty researching on their own, we did get to hear from the competitors themselves. Let's hear what they had to say.
Hey guys, Ovely here with some of the TFT Galaxies Championship pros in person on a laptop. So tell me, who are you? Where are you from?
Hi everybody, so this is OUBOOCE here. So I'm from Melbourne.
Hola, soy TFT CALCIFER y soy colombiano, parce.
제 닉네임은 BOBAE이며 전라남도 고시에 거주하고 있습니다.
Meu nick em jogo é HAZTE. Eu sou representante do Brasil e eu sou de uma cidade chamada Jacareí, no interior de São Paulo.
日本出身のSHOEMAKERです。
大家好，我是ACHEN，来自湖南岳阳。
Je suis Eric Cacho et j'habite à Toulouse en France.
Congratulations on qualifying for the first ever TFT Global Finals. How does it feel to have made it?
Esto es increíble. Desde muy pequeño, amando los videojuegos, jugar un mundial en una escala emocional de 1 a 10, yo diría que 42, seguramente.
心情很棒。
Chegar à primeira final do Mundial de TFT para mim é uma honra. Estou muito animado, muito feliz e é muito gratificante também do resultado de todo o treinamento que eu tive até agora para chegar até aqui.
I'm actually super excited because I actually never thought I would make it because there's just so many rounds and there's so many popular streamers playing it. It's actually like a dream coming true. It's just so unbelievable.
とにかく楽しみたいと思います。
사실 많은 선수들을 대표로 국제대회에 나가는 게 부담스럽기도 하지만 되게 재밌는 것 같아요.
And what would becoming the first ever TFT Global Champion really mean for you?
What it would mean to me? To be honest, I haven't given much thought to it yet because it's like, you know, it's pretty hard.
제가 만약 우승하게 되면은 TFT라는 게임 역사에 남게 되는 거잖아요. 또 제 인생을 뒤바뀌어버릴 사건이 될 것 같아요.
Ganhar o primeiro Mundial de TFT para mim, tenho certeza que vai ser a realização de um sonho. Tem nem palavras para descrever o quão feliz eu iria ficar e quanto minha vida iria mudar com isso.
もし優勝したら、私個人というよりも日本というリージョン全体が注目されると思ってます。
意味着对我的认可吧。
Y en este momento mi conciencia me dice que si consigo un buen resultado voy a conseguir respeto para mi nación, para mi servidor y espero que el resultado se dé, que así sea.
Thank you so much for joining us. That's it for us here. I'm Ovely, tossing it to Ovely.
These are your competitors that will be taking to the very first lobby of the day, kicking off this Galaxies Championship just right. Before we get into the first game, I do want to get some predictions. Overall, generally speaking, from our casters, starting with Doa, then Primal. Of these 8, who do you expect to take those top spots?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's really tough to predict who's going to end up taking the top spots because we've got so many players that we just haven't seen a lot of games from, and we've got all these stylistic differences. That said, VOLTARIUX from France is known as one of the best players in EU. Obviously, a lot of players would call him the best in EU. LevD has been coming up all year long. BOBAE from Korea, big, I think there's a little bit of an unknown factor in that because the Korean region has been so good in esports traditionally, but we haven't really seen them be able to compete at this stage in TFT yet. But if I had to guess, and I know Mismatched Socks is who everybody's predicting to win this one, and he definitely could. He is easily that good, but I think overall EU looks like the strongest region at the tournament at the moment. But we'll see. I could be proven wrong. People are going to hate me no matter what I say, but that's my call right now.
Yeah, I'm sure we have a lot of people that are watching this that are specifically vying for their particular region. Primal, how do you think that's going to play into this? The fact that we're, for the first time, getting more than just a couple regions clashing against one another.
Yeah, it's interesting. So when you have a global game like this, you have sort of regional metas develop. So in a sense, it's actually going to be about which players are able to adapt most quickly to whatever tournament meta they're seeing, because it's not like just playing on your server with how people choose to econ and when they choose to roll. You have to sort of read the actual map and see what other players are doing. And I think really flexible players, like for instance, VOLTARIUX is really well known for his transitions, are going to thrive. So flexibility is king here.
Flexibility that we'll potentially see right off the start. This is the first game of the day, first lobby. Looks like we're going to be hanging out with ACHEN for the first portion of this. Picked up a bow on the Caitlyn to start things off.
Yeah, and if you take a bow in the first carousel, it's usually an indicator that you want to try to play that 6 Blade Master, Master Yi reroll comp. You can pivot from it, but we'll see. The nice thing is that we're on Plunder Planet, right? So if he's able to, get a champion kill every round, he'll be able to get that extra gold, and then that'll help him get to the point where he's able to slow roll, try to find those 3 stars a little bit quicker, if that's what the plan really is.
Yeah, and
on the right of your screen.
Go ahead. Sorry,
go ahead, Primal.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, when it comes to bow, it's an interesting start because it's a core item for certain comps, but at the same time, it's not a great early game item because there's not a lot of things that you want to slam immediately that help you snowball. And on Plunder Planet, it's really important that you're strong early to make up that gold. So I'd like to see what happens if he doesn't get the items for Yi reroll, how he chooses to play it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you got to be ready to adapt for sure. And his items early are a little bit awkward. Belt, cloak, and bow. So not really any major slammable items right off the bat. And like you mentioned, Primal, it's going to be a little bit difficult now because you want to win early, right? You want to be able to get that gold rolling. But it looks like you're going to switch over to a VOLTARIUX, I believe, and see what he's up to.
An EU frontrunner, despite not technically being the #1 seed qualifier from EU, definitely at the forefront for a lot of people in the predictive aspect, cited for a lot of his strength in transitioning during the mid-game. But I'm actually a bit curious as to how the fact that it's an early game prioritization on a planet like this, Primal, when you have items in some of these regions that are known to be more aggressive, like Korea, like China, that tend to prioritize in the early game, do you think they'll have an advantage in a situation like this?
Yeah, I think they'll tend to be more comfortable in a really high tempo lobby. Generally in Korea, you'll see people only econing to 20 or 30 gold before rolling instead of, more slow place metas like North America where people like to go 40 or 50 gold. But here, I mean, if I'm VOLTARIUX, I don't really care what meta I'm in because I have Jace with an Ionic Spark and a Leona too. I'm win streaking no matter what. Dude. So he's probably really happy with his start right now.
Yeah, he's super strong right now. And especially like whenever you find a Jace early, like look at that damage. So he gets the gold. If you can add Space Pirate onto this, which he does have, that's even more gold. So CALCIFER from Colombia on the other side, taking a hit early. But yeah, if I'm VOLTARIUX, I'm feeling really good. And there's a lot of things you could go into from this.
It is nice when you can get an item like Ionic Spark early on that you can transition onto something if needed. You don't feel like you're having to completely lock into a composition.
Yeah, and it's just such a flexible item, right? You can go mech from here, you can put it on the mech, you can play Star Guardians here, you put it on the Nico. So it's just a great use of a cloak as well, because everyone knows what it's like to get cloak later in the game. You're like, I really needed a sword right now, so I guess I'll make it work. So, but getting an early cloak, if you get a rod, is actually one of the best ways to win streak. And putting it on the Jace helps ensure that he gets that Space Pirate gold, because Jace will be more likely to get the last hits. So from here, I mean, he can go pretty much wherever he wants.
Yeah, and he's really got the ideal beginning too, because how Jace and Darius tend to work together in a lot of fights is Jace. If you put Jace and Darius next to each other, the Jace will usually end up ulting first and softening up targets for Darius to then start getting the resets on. So if this is kind of something you can take into your own games. If you're playing this, generally try to keep Jace and Darius next to each other, because they work together very well in terms of helping Darius get those resets. We're a long way away from the Space Jam comps of old, but Darius can still be decent in the early game. But he'll probably be looking to transition fairly soon to something else now.
Not quite
And
the
if he
same
doesn't-
dunking on heads.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't, one spicy thing he could do, I think this is a little bit risky in a tournament, is he could go Space Pirate. Right, he could just say, you know what, I already got the Ionic for Gangplank. Let me try to get a GA for him as well. I'll play this Jace and Darius all the way through, stage 6. The only issue with Space Pirate is if you don't hit the Gangplank, it's a little bit difficult to transition. So it's a little bit of a risky play for a tournament, but he has the units and he's win streaking already, so it's an option.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's if he really does get rolling with Space Pirates, he can take it a lot farther. But I would love to see 4 Space Pirates end up doing well in a global championships game. It went from about a meme to like maybe once in a while you can play it kind of build into our second carousel. Ooh, 2 more bows. So ACHEN might be happy with that if he's still thinking Blade Masters. If he can get
At
one.
the top of the lobby, though, that's the only unfortunate thing. You see those there, and you think, I would love to be able to snag one of those, but likely to be prioritized by some others.
They're generally kind of a little bit of a low demand item, so a lot of times you can get it even if you're at the top. So he might actually get one. I want to see if he grabs this or not. Oh, he's going to bypass it. Okay. Wait, does he grab it? VOLTARIUX, go back to the carousel. He does. Okay, all right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it looks
He
like
switched at the
VOLTARIUX...
perfect moment.
Yeah, right. Thank you, VOLTARIUX, for helping us cast here. So it's interesting that VOLTARIUX chose to go for the glove. He's choosing to just play as flexibly as possible and play into his win streak. I actually really love this, because while you don't have any direction in Plunder Planet, you just want to get as much gold as possible, so that gold will allow you to just roll down and go any direction you want. That said, if he's committing a Thief's Glove, it's not sort of a core item for any comp except arguably Cybers, where you would put it on Aurelia. So what he's probably looking to do is just win streak, go 8 or 9 as quickly as possible, and look for 5 costs. I actually think we might get a Space Pirate game here, but we'll see.
Yeah, we might. I was doubting at first, but I'm starting to believe, which would be great. And with 2 Jaces, this is kind of one of the situations where you really consider going for it. Can he win this fight, though? No, it doesn't look like it.
Too tanky.
No, maybe. Oh, close. Yeah.
Decent
So that's a little bit
survivability,
rough.
especially with the Vanguard online, but unfortunately, damage output on the other side, a little too much for them to overcome.
Yeah, you need to, like Primal was saying, you kind of need to win streak if you're going to play out the Space Pirates. There's another Darius, so if he can find a Jace 2 or a Darius 2, he can probably stay on this track. But if he doesn't find one of those soon, he's probably going to be kind of thinking about swapping, picking up a couple, picking up a Darkstar, picking up an Ashe. That's another possible direction to target in the mid game, but he's still pretty open at this point, like pretty much everybody is, except for ACHEN, who's win streaking and planning on doing Blade Masters. So
So ACHEN is in an
committed.
incredibly good position right now, right? Because generally with Blade Masters, you want to be win streaking, at least if you have your rapid fire cannon. But if you don't have your rapid fire cannon, you want to be lose streaking to get that item, or you're hoping that you just kind of get it from Krugs. So ACHEN, if he is planning on running Master Yi reroll, I hope he already has the rapid fire cannon. And if he does, it's looking like a top 4 game already for him.
Yeah, it certainly could. Man, 2 Jaces is just so strong. That's, Jace, honestly, Space Pirates, not necessarily the synergy. The synergy's cool, but just the Space Pirate units themselves have been one of my favorite parts about Set 3. Just the big damage from the Jace, the resets from the Darius, Graves being annoying and blinding people, and GP just like blowing up the board. All 4 Space Pirate units have just been really fun to play with in a bunch of different comps this season.
Oh man, he had a Shaco too.
ACHEN.
Oh
Yeah,
man.
Yeah.
He's a Shaco too at Krugs, and he already has a bow for him too. That's ACHEN's got to be feeling really good. He got a smug grin on his face. That's how I'd be feeling too from this spot. So if I'm him, I just say, look, let's just go Darkstar. Let's try to get a rapid fire cannon on this Shaco. Let's try to get some swords, hopefully, so you can build the Bloodthirster and Guardian Angel. Guardian Angel being arguably the more important one. But it looked like before he was actually thinking about Cybers, because he did have a bow on the Vayne, but unfortunately, it doesn't look like his items are supporting either Shaco or Cybers at the moment. Yeah, the items are a little bit scuffed.
Yeah.
So we'll see if he just plays flexibly and hopefully gets what he needs later in the next round of PvE.
I mean, I guess he could make a Last Whisper for Vayne, but it is a little bit awkward. And like you said, you do really want to play around that Shaco too if you can. Because, you know, he could, if you put an RFC on Shaco, that makes Shaco really good already. And then if you could do like a Hextech Gunblade now if you want to kind of make the items work, kind of force it a little bit. But it is slightly awkward right now. Do you think maybe there's a way he could pivot into mech possibly with this? Because he's got QSS. No, now he's not going to. Now, definitely not with the Morellos, I would think. But I was wondering there was maybe an opportunity to go mech there with the items.
Actually, I think you're right. I actually think he can still go mech because he has the Morellos, which is core on Victor. It's the arguably. Actually, I don't even think it's arguable.
That's
It's
true,
the best item on Victor. He has a glove, which is super good in mech because he can build Quicksilver or Shroud. So I think your initial intuition, though, was actually right. He could just choose to go mech from here, which would sort of mitigate the fact that he's not hitting swords.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because right now, especially when we knew that just a couple rounds ago, some of the other players are still looking to decide who their carries are going to be in the late game. Obviously, he's leaning a lot on this Shaco to carry in the meantime. But yes, the Rumble is right there in the shop. So if he goes ahead and picks that up, do it.
He won't buy the Rumble because he wants to hit 30 gold. But at least he probably won't. Maybe if he doesn't win the round, he will. But yeah, for some reason I was thinking Morello. I was only thinking about the mech and I wasn't thinking about Victor. But yeah, you're right. Morello is definitely the most important item on a Victor and still a way you can go mech. So he's got the QSS. If he finds another belt, you could go Warmogs on the mech. It's not fantastic, but it's okay. Playing against BOBAE from Korea right now. BOBAE is from Jeollanam-do, which is a province in the southwest part of Korea, and it's absolutely beautiful out there. There's like tons of islands. It's like really, really amazing, like idyllic countryside. It's like one of my favorite places on the peninsula. So just kind of thought I'd throw that out there. He's from a really, really nice area of Korea.
And
so I'm glad that you
very
said
aligned. I mean,
I've
Do's
been
the
there.
one that has the experience.
Yeah, I for those who don't know, I lived in South Korea for 6 years doing esports stuff and got a chance to travel all over the country and it's just it's an awesome place. So what can I say?
That is a place that I hope to eventually go. So for now, I'll just have to dive into Do's memory whenever I want to take a vacation.
Which I'm sure you will. You'll get there.
Yeah, eventually we'll find my way that way. But it is interesting you're talking about where he's from, and BOBAE is very much aligned with you in the sense that he also believes Korea to be one of the strongest regions based on the prowess of other esports, but the ladder itself for TFT being considered one of the harder ones too.
You know, let's be honest, Tigress. Everyone thinks their region's the best. And every time I ask people, like, why do you think your region's the best? It's like, oh, because they're so good at, playing flexibly or transitioning.
Because
truth is, no one knows.
Obviously.
Yeah,
This is like, the first time we're going to find out.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So after this, there's not going to be any more debate. Actually, there'll still be debate. They'll be like, oh, we have the best 10, even if you have the best one. Right? But at least we'll know who the best player in the world is.
Yeah, this is the time for somebody to finally grab that title and say it. But
we're only just getting started with TFT esports anyway. So like next year when there's like even more tournaments and even more international competition, then we'll get more real trash talk.
Doa, he got a fizz with Chain.
I know.
As top half in the lobby, dude. People are just giving him this game now. So now he's definitely gonna go mech. He has a chain.
Yeah,
he actually keep the chain on the fizz and just make a Shroud of Stillness. He already has, I think he has Okay, so I'll have to figure out what to do with the belt, but this is actually an amazing spot for ACHEN,
so
and
here's a
I
question
feel like
for
he
you.
should just roll at 7. Go ahead.
I think so too, but here's a question for you now. He put the Morellos on Fizz. That's interesting. So he's still kind of playing out the Darkstar angle for now, but and he might still be planning just Darkstars here. But as far as mech items go specifically, would you prioritize QSS or that Shroud more? I'm curious.
I would generally prioritize QSS just because it's really
too,
rough if
yeah.
you end up late game and you're like facing a Nico who's perma-stunning your mech or a Zephyr that will basically instantly lose you the fight. So it feels bad
Right.
sometimes if you build QSS and there ends up not being that much CC, but I would say it's the item that is the least fungible with other items in that you can't really replace it with another item. That said, if you're good enough at mech, you can just scout and constantly reposition your mech to dodge, but it's very, very
Yeah.
skill intensive.
It's a lot harder to kind of like move that other unit in front of the mech at the last moment or something, you know. But with that, I wonder, because I really like the new Titan's Resolve basically, and I say new because it just like pops off faster at 25 stacks, which is great for mech. It was always a good item for mech, but I think it's a little bit better now. So I wonder if he's also just going to do QSS and then save that chain vest for something like that too. He's got a lot of options, but you know what surprises me though is that he put the Morello Namicon on the Fizz. Which, like we were talking about earlier, is normally an item you would put on the Victor. You normally don't put that on the mech, so he would have to sell the Fizz to get rid of it. So I wonder if he's just still thinking Darkstars in his own mind here.
Yeah, it might just be a comfort thing, honestly. You know, if I were him, I would be thinking mech from this point for sure, because, again, he has no sword for the
right?
Shaco,
Yeah.
right? And sword is
Yeah.
really essential for Shaco. But in fairness to him, slamming Morellos on Fizz is sort of a health preservation move, because Fizz is much better at using that item than Mord. But yeah, this is interesting. It's not the play I would make, but I'm interested to see what happens if he doesn't get sword, if he still stays on the Darkstar route, or says, you know what, I'll just go mech and we'll remake the Fizz.
Yeah, so there are Darkstar builds that can still be successful, but we just don't see them as often. But maybe it's something on his server that he's found a little bit more success with. The Tigers, you're back with us.
I
Welcome
am.
back.
Thank you. A brief stint away, but back into the action. Seems like everything's going as expected,
cow.
but that's a lot of items.
That's a lot of items, yeah.
And none
okay,
of them
so
are
what
swords.
I'm seeing right now, yeah, none of them are swords, but they are good mech items. So I'm seeing like Hand of Justice, I'm seeing Titan's Resolve and QSS. Think about that. Titan's Resolve, Hand of Justice, QSS. That is an insane mech, right?
Yeah, he's driving me crazy. Why is he not going mech? He even has a Victor and an Annie in the shop, bro. Please.
He really wants to play Darkstars, but I think I feel like
this is a man who's committed. I respect the conviction. I really do think this is
There's
a
a
mistake
rumble.
not to go mech. He could literally make the mech
sold his Annie.
in like 2 turns here.
And he's got just like insane mech items too.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I thought he was just trying to keep himself open to both options pretty much and willing to sacrifice that Fizz if needed, but heavier commitment than expected here. Primal, does that surprise you considering Darkstar is still strong, but maybe he's going for it after scouting the lobby, or what do you think his intentions are?
I mean, it could be that he scouted the lobby and saw mech was contested, but honestly, I just think this is a mistake. I mean, you have the Victor given to you for free. He had a Hand of Justice he could have made, or he could have held the tier for a Shojin's or a blue buff. And it's really difficult to play Shaco late game if you don't get the GA. Granted, he does have a chain, and he's going to have second pick on Carousel, so there's a chance that he gets it. But this is a pretty risky play to make from this point, and he's kind of relying on luck, because if you do not get the GA on Shaco, what'll happen is late game, he just sort of gets killed off before he can pop off.
Right.
And that feels super bad. But look, he knows what he wants to play, and let's see if he can prove me wrong.
I mean, you look at CALCIFER's board that we saw just a round or two ago, and he already had a Shaco with the GA and all that. So, ACHEN a little bit behind in the Shaco head-to-head across the board as well. So as he looks like he's going to drop around to HAZTE right here for Brazil, I'm really surprised he's going this route. Like you mentioned it, you said you thought it was a mistake. I would have to agree with you, honestly, and I hate saying that about a pro player, because generally you always, like, we know what his angle is, right? Like, he really believes in this Darkstar build. This is the decision he's chosen. But just looking at the opportunities he's had in the shop, the opportunities he's had with his items, I feel like this is an instance where sometimes as a player you get really tunneled on your plan, and it leads you to ignore what could be a better route to pivot throughout the game. It happens to everybody, even at this level. So you've got all these weird situations right now, right, where you've got a Shroud on Fizz, you've got a Dragon's Claw on Jhin. Like, it's the items are really strange, and the composition is just one that's just not that strong in the meta right now. It's like B at best. So yeah, I'm just kind of really surprised that he's committing with this direction.
Yeah. The good news though is he is hitting his units, right? He hit the Jhin 2.
Yeah.
And he does have good items on Shaco besides the Guardian Angel, so it's possible that he gets the sword and everything's Gucci and he just win streaks and he's top 4 anyway.
It's possible.
I think it's just the statistically probably safer play would have been to just go with what he was given, which was mech with mech items. But he can certainly still do well in this game, and you know, I think that if he does well, then look, at the end of the day, he's there. I'm not. We're not, and maybe he was right and saw something we didn't.
Yeah, it's hard to say. He's currently in the middle of the lobby right now, 51 HP to his name after that heavy streaking that he did earlier. And he did manage. So, hey, there you go. We were all sitting here thinking, what is he thinking? And admittedly, he didn't know that was guaranteed, but it worked out for him.
This is so risky. He's he hit it, but like it's kind of like one of those situations where it's like, don't try this at home, kids.
Yeah.
Because you can't count on this kind of thing. But he definitely has a strong Shaco now. Like this build just got massively stronger.
Yeah, board's looking good.
Yes.
Board's looking good.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. It was actually on a razor thin margin, right? Because he saw someone else go for the sword.
Yeah.
Any little bit of, like, if he had been a second farther from that sword, he doesn't get that there. So a little bit lucky, but he does have a fully itemized Shaco now. This is a really standard Darkstar game from this point. The key is for him to make sure that his Shaco is always threatening an enemy carry. Otherwise, Shaco can still get stuck on Vanguards and not do super well. But if I'm ACHEN, at this point, I feel comfortable. He probably breathed a sigh of relief, and he's more worried now about how do I get to 9, because he has basically his level 8 board already upgraded for the most part.
Yeah.
Right.
It was so great that he was able to get that Shaco early, which I guess is what encouraged him to commit to that more, being that, as we saw, somebody else had already had the GA, already the Bloodthirster on a Shaco. Unlikely for them to pivot unless they see exactly what's happening here. But now he's got what he's needed to try and carry him into the late game.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm really curious to see how this Darkstar build is going to end up performing. Like I mentioned, it's just not something you see as often these days. So I would imagine with the Shaco items now, he might be able to top 4. But we'll see. He's doing a little bit of looking around the lobby. See Teemo snipers there. We'll check out a couple other boards here as well. Let's see. It looks like Cybernetics for SHOEMAKER from Japan. And that Aurelia is really strong. Oh, wow. Infiltrator Aurelia coming in.
Yeah, coming in hot. But the thing is, I think this matchup can be a little bit difficult for the Cybers player because Shaco kind of just farms your backline, and then he doesn't really have too much trouble killing off the rest of the team. So you're going to see Shaco just constantly healing. The Infiltrator Aurelia is strong, but usually the extra healing that Shaco's getting, as well as the damage he'll get from Hand of Justice, means that there's not really a way for the Cybers player to win that matchup in that particular board.
Yeah. That GA makes all the difference, right? Like, that was definitely a fight that Shaco would have lost if it weren't for the Guardian Angels. So you can see that razor-thin margin we were talking about, where without the GA, that board loses. With the GA, suddenly it's very strong. But we're going to swap over, it looks like, and take a gander at SHOEMAKER's comp, which we just looked at. It is Cybernetics. And, you know, pretty good items on the Aurelia, but he's going to need a little bit more, it seems like.
Yeah, and Cybernetics in general being one of the stronger comps right now. Doa, I believe you said that you enjoy playing this comp particularly. What do you think the advantages are, especially considering that you're not locked into items like you are with a lot of the other comps?
I think it is a little bit more flexible because suddenly item components are almost as good as full items when you hit 6 Cybernetic because of the stat buff that it gives you from the trait, as you can see on the screen there. That said, there are a couple ones that you generally want to have. Infiltrator Claw on Aurelia is really good to get her to the back line. She can start one-shotting all of the carries on the other side. Redemption is a pretty core item for Cybernetics. Generally, you see that on Fiora, but having it on the Vi isn't that bad either. And now that he's found the Echo as well, he can maybe start to get some of that going. Another Hand of Justice on Aurelia. So this is just going to be a really, really strong Aurelia. So it looks like a pretty decent board. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of great that he hit a glove there because his items on Vayne are not particularly good. And usually when you see someone playing Cybers, the Vayne is actually the priority. But when you have Infiltrator Spat Aurelia, sort of all the standard stuff on how to play Cybers goes out the window because Aurelia with Infiltrator Spat is basically a 5 cost. Because she never gets stuck on any frontline unit. Oh my god, he just hit Echo 2. We're lit.
Wow, we rolled the 6% Echo 2.
There we go. So he should just go 9 at this point. Go 9, get Thresh in there so he has Mana Reaver, and he's in a really strong position. Vayne items be damned, he's feeling really great.
Yeah, this is looking nasty for whoever he might go against. We even saw it in that previous round, the Zephyrs hitting some key carries like the Shaco. You're likely to get that quite frequently here when there's still a lot of players in. All 8 totally in at this point in time.
Yeah, BOBAE with the Teemo snipers, and unfortunately for him, he didn't get the shrooms on Aurelia right away. He had maybe a chance to take that out. Let's see if maybe the Mord... No, it doesn't look like the Mord is strong enough to hold on. So once in a while, you can see the Aurelia get blown up by Teemo, but not the case this time. And yeah, this Cybernetics build is looking really good. And it's like Primal mentioned, too. Like, normally Vayne is a carry in this build as well. But if you find that Echo 2 early, and if you get the type of items that he did on Aurelia, you can kind of bypass that a little bit.
And we saw when he did the little pan over, there's actually a person with a more traditional cybernetic setup where they had the Vayne with, I think, Infinity Edge, Giant Slayer, and Last Whisper, which are the core items on Vayne. But I would actually take this position that Shoemaker's in over that any day, because Infiltrator Aurelia just allows you to zero out the Jinx that we saw in the lobby, takes out Jhin really, really quickly, really, really difficult to deal with. So from this point, if I'm Shoemaker, I'm definitely playing for first. I'm saving my money to go 9, get that Thresh, get that Urgot, and put this game in a body bag.
Yeah, Big Aurelia definitely gets you a lot more first places than just a standard Vayne. So the standard cyberboard that you were just mentioning, Primal, is actually from Levdi TROTSKIJ from EU. And he's actually going to be able to win this round in the head-to-head. Interesting. Levdi really does love to play Cybernetics, though. He's been running with that comp for a long time. If you look at his recent ladder profile on EU West, he's been playing a lot of Cybernetics and getting a lot of firsts with it. So definitely an expert at piloting the comp. And, you know, it's that I love when you get to do the Infiltrator Claw Aurelia, but there's definitely something to be said for the good old standard, like, super beefy carry Vayne as well in this build.
And moments like that where... Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tigress.
Oh, I was just saying that
you're both too polite.
Moments like that. You go. No, you go. But we saw that Aurelia was having such an impact, but with positioning wasn't able to get to the Vayne early. The Vi did and get the ult, but without being able to burst down. It was just what was needed from the traditional cybernetic comp to be able to shut this down.
Yeah, it's a matter of positioning.
You're exactly
if he's able to
right.
scout and get the...
Yeah, Levdi did a great job of actually placing a bait unit in the back. I think it might have been, I don't know who it was, but it was someone who was useless. And Aurelia ended up focusing that useless unit
Fiora.
instead of Vayne.
I don't know.
A Fiora. Actually, that's great because sometimes Fiora can actually stun the Aurelia. So that was great. That's how you win the mirror matchup. I still think that Shoemaker is going to be favored probably 70-30 when they go head-to-head. But if there's a way to come back into the game in that mirror matchup, that would be it.
Yeah, a lot of those late game rounds come down to, you know, one thing, right? Where in this case, it's if the Aurelia jumps on the Vayne, the Aurelia player wins. If the Vayne doesn't have the pressure early on, then the Vayne player wins. But man, Urgot just ate a big beefy meal there, but it looks like it wasn't enough. Yeah, VOLTARIUX looks like he's gonna get the win with that big victor. Oh, maybe not. Oh my gosh, the Vayne won. What?
One Vayne.
All right. Let's
go. Vayne's like, I am still the carry. Look at me. I'm still the carry.
All day, every day.
That's some deserved breakdancing right there after that taking down Victor.
Dude,
so
are we
one thing we
going
need
to
to
see an
keep in
Aurelia
mind.
3?
I was about to say, yeah, one thing we need to keep in mind is he's 2 Aurelias away from an Aurelia 3, and it'll be hard to hit that. No, actually, it won't be hard to hit that because Lev D is out in 7th, so those Aurelias are freed up now. So OUBOOCE from Australia and Lev D from, I believe, Denmark out in 7th and 8th in this game already. CALCIFER from Colombia on the way out as well. And so the lobby's starting to kind of narrow down now.
And everyone in this lobby is obviously strong. They've earned their place here. Lev D a favorite by some. OUBOOCE kind of a dark horse in this after winning the qualifier to get here. But still staying on SHOEMAKER. Is he going to put the nail in the coffin for the Colombian representative, CALCIFER? The Shaco feeling too good right now. 2 stars.
Oh my god. That feeling
Shaco,
when your
what can you say?
4-cost, who has almost perfect items, just gets one shot by the Shaco at 3-cost. Feels bad, but that's the difficulty in this matchup, right? Like, if Shaco has a GA, it's really, really hard to burst him down before he just heals to full. And then even when you do burst him down, he gets another life on you. So I think this matchup is particularly difficult for the Cybers player. That said, I think with some cleaner positioning and having the Wukong too to maybe bait the Shaco, he can win this matchup. Because Shaco, one of his few weaknesses is that if he gets stuck on a Vanguard, he can have a problem, you know, cutting through that and then getting to the squishier units. So SHOEMAKER can still win this, and he has plenty of room to grow. He needs the Wukong 2, he needs the Vayne 2. As Doa mentioned, he could get the Aurelia 3. So there's still a lot of power ahead for him. Ooh, and there's a Wukong.
Oh, well, right there, he gets a nice little power boost from hitting level 9, immediately finding that Wukong 2. And the Vayne 2 helps a little bit as well. Frozen Heart on Echo is great because you know Echo is going to be bouncing all over the place with his ult, so he's going to apply that attack speed slow to a lot of people with the Frozen Heart. So it's still a strong board, and like you mentioned, Primal, he's got time. He's got the time, he's got the HP. What, VOLTARIUX, though, hits a Victor 3? Okay, this lobby is getting crazy now.
Victor 3 is going to be so impactful, and we'll have to see how that stuff ends up carrying out because we're just talking about what the Shaco is doing for CALCIFER, who's been on a win streak, but he's still only at that 2 HP. So if you're over here as SHOEMAKER, you're hoping that he'll be knocked out by the next time you would have to face him because your Aurelia is feeling good, very close to the 3-star, and your board's looking nice with 35 HP at the top of the lobby.
Yeah, and that loss, you know, for HAZTE feels bad, right? Because he even got the Zephyr on the Aurelia, but I think Cybers just farms Jinx every single time, particularly when you get the Echo 2, because what will happen is Echo 2 will target the unit with the highest attack speed, so he'll just focus down the Jinx. He even has a Frozen Heart to slow her attack speed, so I think that matchup is just kind of impossible, and HAZTE, from this point, if I were him, I'd say, okay, I'm not going to take a first, I'm just trying to get a 3rd or a 2nd here, and I'll be happy with that, but even so, his comp is just not one of the stronger comps right now. So it'll require a little bit of finessing with the Blitz and the Jinx and the Zephyr play to place higher than a 4th.
I'm just looking at that 3-star.
Oh my god.
Looking so handsome.
That's disgusting.
That Victor is going to do an insane amount of damage, as you can see. When I looked at this comp earlier, I was like, all right, I think VOLTARIUX has a really good chance of winning this lobby. Maybe the Aurelia 3 can bail out SHOEMAKER here, but looking like VOLTARIUX, who we're going to swap to here, is on track to possibly win it. CALCIFER finally drops out. BOBAE from Korea out as well. So we got our top 4, at least for lobby number 1.
Yeah,
which is extremely important for the points. 5 games in total to accumulate to as many as possible to be top 4 to move on to the finals tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. And I actually love this comp by VOLTARIUX. This is not even like a meta comp. This is just him playing really strong units, playing flexibly. Like, it's not often that you see a Victor 3, but regardless, to even be picking up the Victors in combination with Vanguards and Xerath is not something you typically see. So this is actually really beautiful, fluid play by VOLTARIUX. He's playing what he hit, and he's rewarded. He just basically one-shot that Jinx there.
Jinx wasn't able to do anything in that situation, so HAZTE ends up going out in that number 4 spot, and it looks like ACHEN also has fallen, so we're down to the top 2.
Yep. There's the Aurelia 3 for SHOEMAKER if you can grab it.
Do it.
VOLTARIUX, yep, he's going to just deny it. I love it.
Love it.
Said, nope.
Oh,
you ain't
the
getting
dirty
that.
deny. You knew it.
And that's just good. That's just good board awareness, right? You know, to know, hey, they're looking for Aurelia 3. I'm gonna snag that on carousel. I don't care what item it has, because this item is not particularly good. Yeah, great play.
He's not gonna sell that Aurelia. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I mean, we're talking about the flexibility that he shows, that he's not necessarily known as someone to have in particular comps he always gravitates towards. And hey, part of that is denying your opponent.
Right? And look at Shoemaker rolling down. That feels so bad. He's selling everything to try to find that Aurelia. But so VOLTARIUX hitting that Aurelia, in addition to taking off carousel, takes it out of the pool. So he actually might have just won the game off of that play alone.
Yep, you can see right at the end of the round, when it's too late to find one, he sells it and puts the item on the thresh. So really, just really clean play. And this is why a lot of players are, as he wins the game, this is why a lot of players are calling VOLTARIUX the best player in EU, because it plays like that. Super clean game, super good awareness of finding the things in his shop that are going to make him really strong. Playing something unorthodox, I'm really impressed.
I love the fact that we got to see that classic type of play from him right off the start, not going with something traditional, but instead adding that flexibility. Primal, first thoughts on this first lobby that we had?
Well, first of all, shout out to VOLTARIUX for making us look good, because we were bigging him up, and he definitely followed through. But I think what he showed us is that flexibility is king. Right, we saw a comp that does not really have a name win the first lobby. Obviously, hitting Victor 3 is a little bit of a high roll, but even to go for the Victor 3, right, you have to know, okay, Victor's not contested. I can make Victor work in my build. I have the items for it. So I think this kind of fluidity and flexibility, particularly in a meta where there's not one S tier comp, is going to separate the great players from the ones who are good.
Yeah, that's just an instance of like going through the game, doing pretty well, and then being like, oh wow, this is a lot of Victors, or like, and oh wow, this is a lot of Xeraths, and thinking to yourself, you know what, I can actually just make a really strong comp out of this, use that Dark Star buff a little bit, use this insane, you know, Victor 3, and theoretically win the lobby, and he did. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff we love to see in TFT.
Yeah, and we do have some of those highlight moments from the actual first game if you were popping in and out, because there were some interesting choices being made. I mean, let's see, who are we starting off right here with your winner? You see VOLTARIUX was the one to end up taking it all, and also had a really great start too, so some consistency throughout the entirety of the lobby.
And if I recall correctly, I think VOLTARIUX was the one he had a good start, right? But he actually chose to go for a Thief's Glove. And say, look, I don't have direction right now. I'm just going to play strongest board and trust myself to be able to put something together. Here we're seeing the clip where he hit the Victor, right? So he made use of everything that he got, put the Thief's Glove on the Xerath, which is an unorthodox but awesome play, and was able to make it work without having a clear direction.
Right, so you can see he's got 4 Vanguard here, so it seems like the initial plan was to go for something like Astro Snipers, or maybe even Vanguard Mystic or something like that, just because of some of the early items. But recognizing that a lot of those items work great on Victor as well, and so when you find that many Victors in your shop, you know, you go for it. But then this really sealed the deal, grabbing the Aurelia off the carousel, denying SHOEMAKER that Aurelia 3. That was the only chance that SHOEMAKER had to maybe win this, and I don't even think it would have been enough then. But the fact that VOLTARIUX denied it just shows about how good of a player he is.
We talk about the fact that you have to focus so much on your own play. You don't always get a chance to try and deny someone from someone else, but when it's down to that final 2, it can be very much the key difference maker. We also got to see some of that early game taken off of the fact that he was able to build using things like Space Pirates, which you don't always traditionally see. But these are the standings as they, well, currently stand. VOLTARIUX taking that top spot, down to OUBOOCE down at the bottom. But for me personally, this is actually going to be me stepping away. In the meantime, I'll be back for another game, and we'll be welcoming Becca into the mix.
Yeah, that's
Welcome,
right.
Becca.
So thanks for hanging out with us, the Tigress. And Becca, hello. How you doing?
Hi. Good. I was
Did you
super hyped watching that game, yeah.
That first game was insane. Like, he got the Victor 3. I was really impressed by the comp he decided to play, and then just, like, denying the Aurelia, like, so dirty. But, like, you love to see it, you know?
I mean, he played so clean, and when you're at Worlds, you don't. I feel like you'd be scared to play something slightly off meta or like a not established comp, but he just went for it, and he played like 3 Dark Star with the Victor 3, and insane.
Yeah.
I'm a fan now.
For sure. That got me hyped too. I was like, damn, this is what you want to see when you see a TFT play at the highest level, right? You don't want to see someone just going for a cookie cutter comp. You want to see them think really creatively, work with what they got, and just make something work. And VOLTARIUX did that for sure. So I'm hyped. It makes me want to play right now, but we got to cast, and that's even better right now.
Well, you know, like part of me still wants to like jump on the ladder and be like, yeah, let's ladder and set 3 more. But then it's like, but there's the PvE right over there, and that has set 4. So I'm gonna go for that every time right now. But man, I gotta say, like, I haven't been able to see a ton of VOLTARIUX's games over the course of the year. I've seen some, and he looked good. But I kept having players from EU tell me that this guy was like amazing, and so. You know, like Primal, Becca, like when there's a big difference between when the community says a player is really good and when the pros say a player is really good. Like the community will just, you know, a lot of people see one cool thing and then there'll be a big bandwagon, right? Off of like one big play, even though it's not really reflective of the player's skill overall. But when the pros start saying another pro is good, then that makes me like really pay attention. I'm like, all right, well, if you can get a pro to say you're good, then you must actually be pretty good.
Yeah, it's sort of, you know, when pros are saying you're good, it's because they see you, right? They're in your games constantly.
Yeah.
They see the kind of boards you're able to put together. I think someone mentioned that VOLTARIUX is kind of known for having a weaker looking board and still placing better than you, which means this guy's positioning and macro are just so good. We saw him even little plays like knowing, hey, I need to deny this Aurelia 3. I don't care what item she has on her, are what really separate this guy. So if you're your favorite pro's favorite pro, you're doing something right.
Yeah, I asked the TFT Discord what they thought about all the EU players because I just wanted a little more insight into like who would be playing today, and all of them were just saying that VOLTARIUX is that one guy in your game who looks like he has a worse board than you, but always places higher than you. So yeah, I mean, he definitely has the respect of all the really high elo EU players, which is saying a lot.
And like when you hear players say that his board looks bad, but he keeps placing higher than you, that just means he's got really, really good awareness of the strength of his board compared to the rest of the lobby, right? And like the term best board is used a lot in TFT, and everyone's like, oh, you just want to play your best board. But actually doing that is a lot harder. And we saw from the highlights of that game how he made that kind of fairly smooth transition where he was playing just a lot of strong units all throughout, right? He had the Darius 2 for a little while, which can be strong early. He had that paired with the Jace. He had a Syndra as well. So just kind of doing everything he can to kind of like stack those units to kind of get that gold lead level quickly and then have access to things like finding a Victor 3. It's a very smooth transition throughout the game.
Something interesting also,
yeah, for sure.
I think in the last qualifier, there was, in the OCENA qualifiers, I asked Mort which 3-star forecast tends to do the best or has the highest win rate, and I'm pretty sure he said Victor, and I only asked because someone else had an Aurelia 3. So I was really excited to see the matchup happen, but I guess we didn't get to see it.
Denied.
Yeah, super denied.
Man, when I saw that Aurelia on the carousel and it was going towards him, I'm like, oh, he's gonna take it. Oh, poor SHOEMAKER. I felt so bad for SHOEMAKER because you know a good player is gonna deny that from you. But like SHOEMAKER's on like his computer watching the carousel go like Aurelia on the other side, and you're like, no.
And it's just RNG that it was on the other side.
It is, yeah. That's the kind of play that could tilt you super hard. So I hope SHOEMAKER has a strong mental, right? Because in that kind of scenario, we saw him roll down, sell everything, look for the Aurelia. He just couldn't find that particular one. But hopefully, you know, everyone has bad games where RNG gets the best of you. SHOEMAKER played super solid all game. His positioning was really, really clean with Aurelia. He didn't have good items on Vayne either, right? So he made it work with what he had as well. So I'm hoping that SHOEMAKER can continue to show us those performances and flexibility under pressure for sure.
That's right. So looks like we're about ready to go into game number 2. Just like jumping right in there, which is great. It's game number 2, same lobby. We're going to play 5 games with this group of players to see who the top 4, and then we're going to play 5 games with our other group of players to see who their top 4 is going to be, and that's going to determine our final 8 for tomorrow. But it is a super dense galaxy for game number 2. And so that means everybody gets a Force of Nature at 3-1. You get that extra spot on your board. Becca, you're joining us for this game. How do you like to approach this galaxy in particular? Like, what are your favorite comps to play on this one?
Well, I don't know about my favorite comps, but I just know I'm excited to watch players like of this caliber playing on this Galaxy, just because.
Sure.
Then you get to see them decide whether or not they need to get to 8 or they need to get to 9 or not, because they do get the extra unit, so they can fill out their comp earlier because everyone's guaranteed a fawn. So I do want to see. I'm excited to see how people decide whether or not they're going to level or roll on 8.
Agreed.
Yeah,
and there's
cool,
some comps that you
because
can
it
sort of
lets
look
you-
to lean into. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
sounds like we got a little bit of
yeah,
a
I was
delay
just saying
with a
there's
few
some
of us.
comps
This
that you
is-
can look
This
to
is the
lean
trials
into.
and yeah, this is the trials and tribulations of online casting. Welcome to 2020. So sorry about the awkwardness, guys, but yeah, you were saying Primal.
Yeah, let's try that again. So there's some comps you can look at to lean into on this Galaxy that really benefit from the Fawn. For example, if you're playing Cybers, you can add 4 Chrono at 9, which is really, really strong endgame. If you're playing Mech, you can choose to just roll at 7, because at level 8 is when your comp comes online from a synergy standpoint. So I think this Galaxy shows who understands the comps really at a deep level and understands, okay, I can actually forego spending this 50 gold to go level 8 and just roll now, because I'm going to spike immediately if I roll now versus later.
Yeah. So we're taking a look at our Lobby 1 standings as well, and as you can see, it's pretty. I would say this is a pretty forgiving format for day 1, honestly, because there's no drop from first to second in terms of points. There's no drop. It's not like as bad as it has been in I would say most tournaments this year. You have that drop off, so less pressure in game 2.
Kind of curious to know if you guys like that there's no drop off. I personally feel like there should be a little bit of extra oomph, I guess, for getting first in a lobby. But yeah, what do you guys think?
I prefer it too, but I think the important thing in this is the first kind of real year of TFT esports. So I think the important thing above all else is to experiment and try a bunch of different things and kind of figure out, you know, what works best. And you know, because TFT is still an esport kind of in its infancy, that's kind of important, I think. But yeah, I prefer a little bit of a drop off too. But like I said, better that we just kind of test things out. So BOBAE going up against VOLTARIUX now, and the Aurelia 2 with the Ionic Spark early on is pretty nice.
Yeah, Alawi too.
Yeah, Alawi too. I'm thinking I've got Aurelia on the brain now, don't I?
I do too, actually. I'm still thinking about the last game, and I'm still curious what would have happened. I think the Victor 3 is just too strong, though. Okay.
I agree. Yeah.
So who do you? I guess after last game, I'm kind of looking at VOLTARIUX as the favorite. I just think he plays so flexibly and aware. Who do you think is going to take this lobby? If you had to guess now.
It's so early. That's so unfair. But
I know, right?
I think, yeah, you knew what you were asking.
I'm putting
I think
you on the spot. I'm
strong.
sorry.
No,
Yeah,
it's okay. I'm not afraid of any question. All right, so I think VOLTARIUX is really strong, but Force of Nature really comes down to who's better at managing the opportunity to put in like little extra side synergies. So I think like around 3, like 5, I would be able to kind of like predict that better. But I think we're gonna see like the first places get spread out quite a bit because the level of the players is really good. But like I was saying in the pre-show, I legit think that EU has the strongest representation in this tournament. So in this lobby, I would say LevD and VOLTARIUX are probably the 2 strongest players. But that said, I think we could see that turn out very differently as well. On board with BOBAE now from Korea as he goes up against SHOEMAKER.
I'm kind of looking forward to the OUBOOCE comeback from behind again, where he just offsets the whole lobby. I think he could do it. Anything could happen in these tournaments, but yeah, I mean,
that's the thing with the format for day 2 tomorrow, where it's like if it's not just enough to be good and consistent, you have to get that first place as well. So BOBAE, like it took him a while to get to the point value to win the tournament for the OCNA finals, but if he got there and he won it, so it's certainly possible. But I think he is an underdog. Like no doubt, players like OUBOOCE are going to be underdogs in this tournament. They're going to have to really perform well. Because on the ladder he's Grandmaster, he's not in Challenger right now, so it's a bit of a mountain to climb for sure.
So I remember hearing that the Chinese server likes to play Star Guardian a lot, and I had been seeing a lot more Star Guardian players in NA as well, not just in my games, but in like higher elo games. So I was kind of surprised. Were you kind of surprised that no one played Star Guardian last game?
I was a little bit, because everyone is talking about how strong that comp is right now, and like Nico is like really, really crazy strong. So sometimes it can come down to the items, I guess, and sometimes it can come down to the Galaxy. But I know just Asia in general, like the Korean server, the Japanese server, the Chinese server, all those servers really have always liked playing Sorcerers and Star Guardians throughout Set 3. So I would be shocked if we didn't see it played a couple times here. We've got a little bit of a Vanguard Sorc start for BOBAE here, but we'll see. I do think the comp is really strong right now, though, so I feel like somebody's got to play it.
Yeah, because we saw, I think it was ACHEN slam the Dragon Claw on Jin, which I think is good in a Star Guardian lobby, but unfortunately there weren't very many in the last lobby.
That was confusing to me, yeah. But so when we look at BOBAE's board right now, he could go a couple different directions with this. He could go Star Guardians out of this. He could also think about going something like Astro Snipers later, or even Vanguard Mystic, because Cassiopeia got that little buff in 10-18 just like a day ago. So there's a couple different directions, but I like the Syndra early.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good unit to carry those items, and I think blue buff and an AP item are so flexible right now that I feel like his start is looking super good, especially with the early Syndra.
Yeah. I would actually advocate putting the items on Ahri over Syndra at this point in the game. I know that sounds weird, but I think as far as the early rounds go, Ahri is actually going to get you more value because she's going to hit more targets quicker. And so oftentimes in these early rounds, she can outperform Syndra. As someone who's played like way too many Star Guardian games this season, this set, I actually like Ahri a little bit better at this point in the game specifically, like stage 2 and 3.
I was gonna say, I do know you've played a lot of Star Guardian, so I'm sure you know a lot better than I would. But I feel like later on, if you do want to move that blue buff onto a Janna or something, if you're playing Star Guardians, Syndra's an easier unit to find later on when you're higher level and you're finding those Jannas. So I just think Syndra's an easier unit to transition with, but for sure, if you're trying to save HP and play the strongest thing, maybe the Ahri is better.
Yeah, it kind of depends on what the angle is, really. And you're right, there's definitely risks with starting it out on the Ahri early on. You kind of have to be building like a reserve Ahri at the same time, which feels kind of awkward. But we'll see. I'm curious where he's going to go with this. I feel like it's probably going to be Astro Snipers. That's the most logical place a lot of people would take this. But he is holding on to a couple protectors too, so he's leaving himself open for Star Guardians.
Yeah, and he's holding a bunch of Vanguards, so maybe even a Mystic Vanguard game, because they were telling me yesterday during rehearsals that Cassio's getting buffed. So I was curious if we would see more Cassio comps.
She got, I think her first, I think Cassio 1-star got buffed a little bit. I'm trying to remember what the patch note says exactly, but I still think the comp is good. It's like A+, it just might not be S. But,
man. BOBAE just got the Syndra from an orb. It's... Okay, sometimes when you're holding the 2 3-cost units, a pair of 3-cost units, you're just like, dang, do I have to sell it eventually for econ? But I don't know.
So
do you ever sell it? I don't, because I'm greedy, but I'm sure it would be better to sell it in some cases. Oh, he has the 4 Vanguards, and he's looking so strong with the Fawn.
Yeah, if he finds a Cassiopeia 1, I would swap in a heartbeat, But... yeah, being so close to a Syndra too, you hate having that gold sitting on your bench when you could be like, oh, I could hit 30 and just econ, I could sell the protectors and the Syndra, but I don't know. Oh, so all right.
Yeah, slamming the Jeweled Gauntlet.
Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so he also had 6 Leonas, and I think I do think a problem that newer players have is wanting to super RNG that Leona 3, but a lot of these higher elo players, they won't hold on to it just because, one, it's unlikely to hit, without rolling, and 2,
Right.
it's not really going to add too much value to your board later on. So he just got rid of the extra Leona too. It was good early though, and he hits the Syndra too on pick
Alright,
2 so
so-
easily, naturally.
Yeah, if I was BOBAE right now, I'd be feeling pretty good because this is a strong start. I mean, he's down at 7th in the lobby, but you know, for those of you who maybe haven't watched as much TFT, like it's okay to drop a little bit lower. You have to kind of think of your hit points as like another resource, right? Where in order to set up wins later, sometimes you can spend HP, if that makes any sense, because that helps you get higher priority on the carousel. Lost streaking can bring in extra gold, so it's not the end of the world being this low. It's a little bit lower than you'd prefer at this point, but it's not the worst thing ever, you know. But now things should be a little bit stronger, I'd say.
Yeah, I think he's gonna streak from here. He has the Nautilus 2 already, the Mordekaiser 2, and he could honestly he could transition to Astro Sniper super easily from here as well, with the bow for Jin later on, and the Nautilus 2 makes it so easy.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, just find the Bard or a Gnar or something like that along with that Teemo.
So I was told that the Korean region is a lot more aggressive. So like NA or EU players that watch Twitch streams would have heard of Polt, and Polt is known to be a very aggressive leveler.
Yeah.
Almost never has econ. But I actually haven't seen that very much from BOBAE so far, because we had some rehearsal matches yesterday, and it didn't seem like he was being super aggressive with his leveling. So I wonder if he's gonna be pulling out some of the Korean playstyle, I guess. Later on during this tournament.
I'm curious because I mean I think Polt's kind of almost in a league of his own, but that aggressive leveling style seems to be a lot more popular over there, like you said. And when I casted the China versus NA tournament earlier this year, they were doing a lot of that as well. It was a lot of really aggressive leveling. So it just seems like it's like there's the NA meta and there's the EU meta, which are fairly close, and then there's the Asia meta, which is the Korean, Japanese, and Chinese servers. And even though there's not a lot of like cross-play between those servers, they trend towards the same sort of style as far as like lower econ, higher leveling, more aggression, you know. But it's interesting because that's always been one of the big questions, right, Becca, where it's like, you know, whose style of econ is better, NA or like NAEU or Asia, you know? And I think we're going to see a little bit more insight into that this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you think about it statistically, having a lot of money means you're more likely to hit the things you want. But I think when people are more aggressive with their gold and using it early, it really messes with the plans of people who want to go for the late game. So
yeah, in
NA, I think, or in one region, people adapt and like will play in the way that most people are playing just because they can. So like in NA, more people will econ because they're allowed to, because other people aren't really using their money. But because it's a tournament with really different metas, people are forced to adapt and maybe have to roll early. So I want to see it. I want to see it. I want to see it have an effect throughout this tourney.
I think it will. Like, part of it is it's so hard to prepare if you're these players, right? Because there's not as much info out there about all of the different regions and things like that. So you're kind of like learning as you go along.
Yeah, I agree. So
All right,
I think we saw another Star Guardian player, but now are we looking at it from the perspective of HAZTE?
Yeah. So HAZTE from Brazil is who we're checking out right now. He's playing against OUBOOCE from Australia. And what has he got going on? So it's looks like it's a little bit of a rebel infiltrator right now. Okay, so he may be trending towards a rebels comp. It looks like. I want to see his like whole board when it's not dead. So we'll wait for that.
Yeah, that was such a big loss though. We just switched over to him and he took a huge loss. It's a caster curse.
Caster curse. No. Yeah, looks like okay. So, interesting. So he's kind of trending towards rebels right now, but maybe he sort of wants to go Blade Masters. He has the RFC.
Yeah, but also with the Alawi in the backline.
Yeah.
Do you think he's just trying to preserve the Alawi because of the battle cast buff, or do you think there are just a lot of infiltrators in the lobby? No, it didn't look like it. So I wonder if I would keep the Alawi so far back.
Yeah, I'm a little bit puzzled by that as well, because you're not super worried about the Yasuo getting grabbed by Blitzcrank in most cases.
Yeah,
so.
because there is a Yasuo behind Ziggs.
Right. So yeah, I agree. I'm a little bit confused why he's got the Alawi all the way in the back. But it seems like this seems like the classic case of finding a lot of 2-stars early on, win streaking, and then not really having a strong compositional plan and starting to kind of like loss streak after that, which is the phase he's entering in now, right? Where other mid-game comps are coming online, and he doesn't really have the strongest mid-game comp, even though he has 4 2-stars. So he's going to need to swap it up for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so we did see ACHEN with a Syndra 2 as well. And BOBAE with the Syndra 2. Both the Syndra 2s in the lobby.
Yeah.
We were talking about that briefly, but with more people playing Star Guardians, do you think that carries, the value of carries holding GA goes up a lot with Syndra perhaps like preventing the Syndra from one-shotting your carry?
Oh, totally. Yeah, I think GA always gets more important in a meta where there's one-shot potential, right? So when we saw a lot of Jhin comps and we saw a lot of like infiltrator comps, you know, back then like GA was a lot more important, right? Because you needed you could probably plan on your carry dying, and then so you needed them to come back and continue carrying. So yeah, I think GA does rise in popularity during those types of metas.
Yeah,
okay,
do you remember when infiltrators were super popular and everyone had to have...
I do.
Oh man, even set 1, everyone would have like a GA on their Draven. Oh,
Yep,
Draven.
that's right. Oh man, Draven, yeah, we're going way back. We're going back to the Imperial synergies.
Yeah.
That was a fun set. Give me my 6 Yordle, 60% dodge comps again.
Oh no, don't bring it back the Yordles, please, no.
Yep, those were good times. Those are good times. Not many people would agree, but we had fun, you know.
Alrighty.
And so
he already has 6 rebels in. Yeah.
Yeah, so 6 rebels, but I have been asked to inform you, and it is my pleasure to inform you that we will have Crowan joining us from Cloud9, top-tier TFT player. Unfortunately, that also means that Primal is having a little bit of internet issues. He dropped out, but we've got Crowan subbing in to get back to the TriCast. And Crowan, can you hear me? Are you out there?
Hello, I can.
Hey,
how are you guys doing?
Doing good. Watching HAZTE try to put together this Rebels comp. So, Crowan, you are a TFT tournament veteran. You've been in a lot this year.
Wait. He's a TFT tournament god.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
This dude has he's
you.
made it to the final
Becca.
lobby of like nearly everything that's been out there. So going into an event like this, like how do you think the players are doing mentality wise?
Oh man, I mean, some of these players, it's their first time competing in something this large, probably for a lot of these players, so it is a lot of pressure coming from that mindset. I am really impressed from what we've seen so far, particularly with VOLTARIUX. Like, we saw an insane amount of game sense and awareness, you know, in picking up that Irelia last game, so I'm really excited to keep watching him, but for now, we are on HAZTE, and I was doing a little bit of research actually coming to this event, and I know that HAZTE almost seems to crutch on going for Rebels Jinx. Like, it's definitely a very high preference there. We saw that he was losing some rounds in the early game because of trying to get to this point. And now that he has gotten the Jinx, has gotten the 6 Rebels, we'll see how well he stabilizes from here.
Yeah, it seems like the later the game goes, the more he's going to need to find that gangplank as well. You know, if you want to get like a top 2. Otherwise, would it seem accurate to you that generally Rebels Jinx is like maybe a top 4 comp, but not usually a top 2 comp unless you get that really strong GP at the end?
Yeah, definitely. If you have Jinx with triple items that are good and have that GP, hopefully at tier 2 at that point, will it be winning lobbies? I think Gangplank is crucial at that point, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about Rebels at the moment, Becca?
I love Rebels. I just think it's really funny that there's like Ezreal in one comp with Acel, so there's just like a bunch of mana drain, and then you can just build like you can build Shrouds, and then these people just can't cast. But I also feel like like you said, it's like a top 4 comp. Unless you get like the GP2 and the Acel 2, and even then you just like have to sweat the positioning a lot, and you can't even be super flexible with the positioning with Rebels without losing a lot of value. So yeah, it's not the best. But I do like the RFC on Jinx. It helps her get through units like Shen, units like if she gets Graves blinded, she can still hit. And if there's like a Jhin, she doesn't have to move 10 million steps to do damage to the Jhin. So I do like the RFC.
Oh, I agree so much. I think that RFC on Jinx is a lot of the time a make or break in round wins. And as you said as well, I think it's a good point. The GP, you know, being that difference between the top 4 and winning lobbies, but positioning wise, like you can't readjust your positioning late game as rebels very quickly. So if someone just tries to, you know, slap a shroud at the last second, like you're not gonna be able to dodge that in time. So there's really only so much you can do if someone's specifically trying to counter you as the rebel composition there.
Yeah, you know what's the worst?
Yeah, you can see him swapping now, but it's tough to make that transition.
It was a quick swap, but yeah,
that was really
you can
fast.
swap a shroud even quicker.
That is very true.
Yeah,
it's only
the worst
one
is when they just stick the Gnar in front of your rebels and the whole team's just flipped into the team of shrooms. That's like one of the most frustrating things playing against the Gnar, I think.
Yeah, that's one of the tribulations of playing rebels here. Oh, CALCIFER! Ooh, he's still alive. All right, CALCIFER still in it for the moment. Our representative from Colombia in the tournament here, but narrowly surviving, down to 2 HP. And ACHEN from China down to 36. So dropping pretty fast, but unfortunately it looks like CALCIFER is going to be our fast top 8 here.
That's a very scary position to be in. At 2 HP, the round before Arc Raptors, you could even lose before that point where you're maybe, you know, waiting on the items to help bring you back into the game. So definitely a little bit of struggle in that early to mid game to get to that point, because it's very, very rare that, especially in a tournament format with very, very strong players, that we're going to see someone drop at this point.
Yeah, you don't see players drop before Rebels very often. It happens to all of us, but still, that's pretty rare. Oh, here we go, Becca. ACHEN playing Star Guardian Sorks. So there you go. But the items on Nico are not as great as you would hope. The Warmogs is good, but the Bramble Vest not as useful these days. So this one, you can tell why he's kind of down towards the bottom right now, unfortunately.
If you are watching the bottom screen with CALCIFER, I'm always rooting for the person with low HP because I want them to be my anime protagonist. So let's go, CALCIFER. Let's go.
It's got to go Super Saiyan, man. Time to unlock.
Yeah, but he gets
instinct.
the creeps. He can really upgrade here with some items. I'm excited. Let's go.
Yeah, well, he's got the Shaco again, and if I recall, he was playing Shaco carry in game number 1 as well. If I'm remembering right.
Yeah, perhaps so. Oh, yeah, you are right, actually. I wrote that down as a little note there. I'm curious, if possible, to check out CALCIFER's perspective after this round to see exactly how long he'll be able to hang on for. At this point, you know, as a player in this position, you have to spend all of your gold to stabilize, or maybe you want to greed it out so that you can not only just try to get a 7th instead of an 8th, but try to get for that top 4 instead. And yeah, looking at CALCIFER right now, is spending all that gold, going to 8, and is probably going to roll down the rest here. Like, you need to stabilize. There's some good items here between the Shaco and the Jhin. Doesn't hit the 6 Dark Stars yet, but has hit the Wukong too. So in a really good spot here, I think, to hold on for at least a few more rounds.
Yeah, with the Wukong too. Yeah, because he needs frontline so that his Dark Stars can actually die and get damage. So I'm pretty excited.
I like the last minute swaps as well. Like, sometimes you look at that and you're like, oh, why are they doing it? There's 8 players in the lobby. But just making those changes just keeps people on their toes when they're trying to plan against who they have the likelihood of playing against. But, oh no, Shaco, take the wheel. Can he do it?
Masters.
Yeah, GA on Jhin helps too.
Still up, right? Yeah.
There we go. Dude, GA on Jhin saved him.
Yeah. That's the difference, you know, leveling up, hitting those upgrades, rolling down, like saved CALCIFER there. We'll look over at OUBOOCE. OUBOOCE just econing up 50 gold, is going for that Master E3, so he'll be strong later, but fortunately for CALCIFER, ran into him now as opposed to that point where he would have hit the E3.
Yeah, the match RNG does come into account when you're playing this late game. It's just you have to play against them before they hit, especially comps like Yi. You don't want to play against them after he hits the E3.
Right. Yeah, it really is only the Guardian Angels that are going to save you in that situation, too, because you know Yi is going to kill your whole team at least once. But can he kill it twice? That's the question.
Is the question, indeed. CALCIFER going up against Voltario here, and that is a tier 2 Jinx, so pretty strong. And the Jhin actually gets hooked by the Blitzcrank there, so that's not looking good for CALCIFER.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but Shaco, he can do it. If anyone can 1v5, 1v6, definitely Shaco.
Got it, I think.
Those are, I would
Yeah.
say, those are probably perfect items on Shaco. Would you agree?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's for sure. Best
It
items on
helps them
Shaco. There's a little bit of
damage the whole fight. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there is a little bit of discussion around the RFC. I know some players prefer not to have RFC and have another damage item instead, maybe a Hodge or something. But personally, I do like the RFC a lot on Shaco. It can allow him to always get that damage in wherever needed. I was a little scared for CALCIFER that fight because the Jhin got hooked by the Blitzcrank. Like CALCIFER is repositioning very fast, but not really scouting that much in the lobby, just kind of hoping. So did get punched by Blitzcrank, but Shaco's a pretty good unit, so not punished enough.
So OUBOOCE hits the Yasuo 3, the Z2, and the Fizz 2, and the Z3. Okay, so OUBOOCE is popping off right now in his roll down on the right side of the screen. Lev D coming in to try to knock CALCIFER out here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you have not too much time to make your decisions and scout, you just kind of have to randomly position based on what you had been seeing.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
CALCIFER does fall in 8th there.
So jumping over to Lev D, TROTSKIJ's view here, another one of our EU powerhouse representatives. Lev D has had some pretty decent tournament results throughout the year. Obviously, good results in the EU qualifiers that got him here, but he's been a strong ladder player all year as well too. And I think a player that's kind of flown under the radar a little bit for a lot of NA, but he prefers cybernetics. As you can see, he's played it 2 games in a row now. And he's just, I think, quite good at positioning. So definitely a threat in this tournament.
So I asked the EU players for information on other EU players, right? And they wouldn't give me any information on Lev D, besides that he doesn't check his Discord messages and that he almost was disqualified from Worlds because he didn't check. And that's all I got. That's all the info I got from the other players.
I talked to him. I've talked to him pretty frequently over the last few months. He was on an episode of my show Galaxy Brain as well to kind of break down his play style. But he definitely does keep to himself a little bit more than some of the other players. I asked him like how he was feeling going into today, and he said that he normally wears contacts, but his eyes hurt, so he's wearing glasses today, so it's hard to see. And that was his info for me. And I'm like, oh, thanks. I hope your eyes feel better. But yeah, he's
that
great.
pretty much goes along with what people say about him, for sure.
That's what's on your mind sometimes, you know?
Yeah, that checks out. But also going back to just Lev D being a very consistent tournament player. Oh man, knocks out OUBOOCE there.
OUBOOCE.
So those Blade Masters that were looking so strong were not strong enough. But Lev D's performed really well in tournaments that I've noticed throughout the entire year, and maybe still with that has flown under the radar a little bit. I think if you going to ask who are the top European players, before this event, people might throw out some other names first, but Lev D has always been one who's impressed me, so I'm excited that he's doing pretty well in this game. Is low HP, but can still hang on and maybe be a top placer to move on to tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, he does have the good items on Vayne. He does have the Echo too. There is a Jinx player, and I feel... Okay, so when you're playing against Jinx with an Echo, it feels so good when she's already, been excited. But, man, I don't know. Sometimes she's not excited, and then they still win the round.
Jinx has had different levels of being excited throughout the different patches, but I would say she's like 75 to 80% excited as far as her usefulness in the game right now. So it's pretty good.
It's probably a good
HAZTE
number
taking
there.
a big loss though.
Yeah, the Jinx only has an RFC there from HAZTE, I believe, so you're gonna need some more damage items in the Jinx for it to actually be able to, get excited and carry those rounds, but items just are kind of lacking there. We saw another elimination there, actually, SHOEMAKER going out in 6, so we are nearing our top 4 of this lobby. It's getting kind of close.
Certainly starting to type out or to tighten up a little bit. That's for sure. VOLTARIUX is the player that we're going to check out, down to 4 HP, the winner of game number 1, fighting for survival here, and deciding to go for Rebels. So, VOLTARIUX is a very flexible player. I've seen some Rebels games recently on his profile, but it's like we were talking about, where it's just not the strongest comp, and has even got things like the Swordbreaker on Jinx. So I don't think these items are terrible. Like Runen's red buff is good. Swordbreaker is an interesting adaptation, and I think it is good against Blade Master players, but it's just not going to be... It feels like maybe a top 4 board, but definitely not a top 1 board.
it's maybe a top 1 if one more Gnar is found here, because has that Nico's help to get that
right.
tier 3, but
wow.
is not going to get that, unfortunately. This could
Bummer.
be the end for Voltario going into this round, and yeah, goes up against Levdi's Cybernetics Ghost. That Vayne's so strong.
Yeah, so at least he's playing a Ghost here, but see if he's able to take it out. That's also a pretty strong Aurelia, too. And one of the nice things about Cybernetics on the Super Dense Galaxy is you can use the Force of Nature to activate that Cybernetics buff, but man, that Vayne is just going to kill it, looks like.
Oh no, the Vayne
so
tumble
close.
at the end there. Man.
Oh.
Voltario actually gets a 4th,
hey,
though.
top 4! Alright, we take those.
It's always a good feeling when you're able to scrape out a top 4 barely in terms of just 3 HP at this point. Voltario, going back to just him playing so flexible in game number 1, you know, maybe was that a sort of high roll? We know he got that Victor 3, played super flexible, but here he played a more standard composition in Rebels, and it didn't do quite as good. You know, top 4 is still a top 4, so props to him for that, but I'm curious to see his placements in the next couple of games. But checking out BOBAE here with some Star Guardians, something that I think the Korean region players do like running a lot.
Yeah, Becca and I were kind of wondering earlier when we would see this in the tournament, because the comp is so strong right now. It's too bad Primal dropped out, because I know this is one of his favorite comps as well. He just released another a guide for the newer version of this on YouTube. He was one of the original people that kind of really figured out this comp, I think, back in the early days of Set 3. And it's strong. As you can see, Levdi out in 3rd. All right. And HAZTE nearly out. That was almost a double kill there.
Yeah.
Looked like BOBAE might take 1st here.
HAZTE is Cybers, right? He's playing Cybers against Star Guardians. One of the worst matchups for him.
Rebels, I believe, HAZTE was.
Oh, he was playing... Oh.
Yeah.
Oops, my bad.
Not going to do him any favors either way, though.
Yeah.
As, it's looking good for BOBAE. That Nico is going to be able to survive, get big stuns, carry, and then, you know, Syndra can literally just one-shot the Jinx on the other side, so...
It's still a Rumble there, not a Gangplank for HAZTE, so that's going to be a huge factor going to this round. And the Jinx gets... Oh, no, not the Jinx gets Zephyr. Sorry, the Jinx has Zephyr.
Oh, he Zephyred the Zed, which is also kind of annoying to deal with here.
I think BOBAE is playing 9 units when he has like 10 slots, but he just wanted to be able to use the Zephyr. He just sold his in to play the Zephyr.
Yeah,
Plenty.
That was a really fast last-minute play.
Yeah, BOBAE from South Korea winning game number 2. And that's big, because, again, he came into this, we were looking at some of the players talking earlier before the games began, and he said he wanted to leave a legacy in TFT. He knew, you know, the strength of South Korea as a region in esports, so there is some responsibility there. You know, when your region has, like, 3, 4, I think it is now, World Championships in League of Legends, you've got players like Faker coming from your region. You know, there's a lot to live up to if you're an esports pro. So, especially in a game that's in the League of Legends client like TFT. So, yeah, it's got to feel good to get a win there.
Yeah, no, definitely. And with Star Guardians, I mean, we see the power of it there. It's coming into today, you know, being one of the most looked at compositions that players are going to run. BOBAE right there demonstrated how powerful it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, how brave is it to sell this in, to not have the extra unit on the board? Well, actually, I guess against something like Rebels, it helps Jinx not pop off earlier because it's a slightly weaker unit, but still.
I think it's great, but I do agree, Becca, that it's a player that it's a play that you wouldn't see a lot of players make. It seems counterintuitive, right? Because you're quote unquote making your board weaker, but getting that other unit out of the way on their side with the Zephyr ends up being a net gain. So just the kind of heads-up player you'd expect from, you know, one of the top players in the world, right?
Yeah.
I agree.
It's a calculated risk, and I mean, the risk I don't think was necessary there, but did end up working out for BOBAE there.
Yeah. So just a couple other highlights from this game. Looking at a couple of views from ACHEN, who I believe finished a little bit lower in this particular one. Not quite the results he was looking for. But that happens.
Yeah, and man, these Blade Masters from OUBOOCE here as well. OUBOOCE had rolled down so much gold and had not found any more Master Yi's. Probably some of them being taken by the Rebel players, actually, because if OUBOOCE had been able to get Master Yi 3, that could have been a completely different game there.
Totally agree. I think that's we had like 2 other Rebel players in there, so that does take a lot of Master Yis out of the pool. So just kind of a rough round to go for Blade Masters. But that's what happens. You know, you need to really be aware of what other people are playing and be ready to pivot around that. You know.
Yeah, exactly, and maybe that's actually going to be a little bit rough for HAZTE if he tries to keep going this Rebel composition. It's something that you know, based off of his recent ladder match history, definitely likes. If that's contested, maybe it would be not great for the Blade Master players in the lobby.
Yeah. So it looks like I'm gonna step out for this next game. I'll be back later, but. It was a ton of fun. I will catch you guys after this game.
Yeah, catch you later, Doa. Thank you very much for casting so far and joining us. We will have Latigris. Welcome back. How are you doing?
Thanks. I'm doing pretty good. Enjoyed watching that last game. Becca, Krohn, did you have a great time?
Yeah, I was excited to see, because we thought people were gonna play Star Guardians. It was nice to see that like our research kind of paid off.
Yeah, not really seeing any Star Guardian in lobby number 1, having it pop here in lobby number 2. Krohn, you know, I believe that comp ended up going out in 4th. What do you make of its consistency, and not always necessarily unless you have the right items or the right carry to get that number 1 spot, but maybe going for it more to be able to get that top 4?
For which composition again? Sorry.
For the Star Guardian composition.
For the Star Guardians, yeah. I mean, I think it's a lot of times a Nico diff. You know, Nico being that solo frontliner. If she's itemized very well, it can propel you to a first place victory. If your Syndra is itemized well, you get those 6 Star Guardians online, and once you're able to get to the late game and get that Janna, you can win games at that point. But if you're a little bit weak during the mid game, losing a bunch of HP, so you're forced to all in earlier, you can definitely sort of only barely scrape that top 4 some of the time.
Which is why it makes sense that, you know, listening to the cast, Doe was making the suggestion of potentially even prioritizing something like an Ahri just to be able to get through there. Luckily was able to get to that Syndra too later on to be able to carry through for that top 4 finish. That's a comp that we're waiting to see. But before we get into our 3rd game of the day, Becca, are there any other compositions that we haven't seen yet in the first 2 lobbies that you're expecting to maybe see pop up later?
So we haven't really seen Astro Snipers, which I know people were playing or have been playing a lot lately. I still expect to see a lot more Star Guardians, especially because people like playing Cybers. So Star Guardian just works really well into Cybers. Nico tends to be like a mini mech and just CCs all the Cyber units around their carries. So that's just what I'm expecting in the next match.
And there was a little cybernetics, particularly from one player. Lev D did end up bringing it in the first 2 lobbies. Could maybe end up seeing an adjustment later on. But VOLTARIUX was the one to take that number 1 spot in game 1. Came through for number 4 here. Krohn, we got some opinions from everybody else at the top of the day. He seemed to be one of the front runners as far as taking the overall championship. Are you aligned with that, or do you think someone else is more likely to do so?
Oh man, I'm so impressed with Voltario for the, you know, especially the first game, just going back to, again, to I referenced earlier, that game sense of taking the Irelia on the carousel, denying that tier 3 from the opposition, just playing the early game so well, having like Space Pirates to farm the gold, and then transitioning to a Syndra and then to the Victor. I just think that it's likely Voltariux is looking very, very strong for me today.
Yeah, it was so fun to see. I know, Becca, after that, you're watching, off camera, and you're saying how clean it was, how all of the decision-making seemed very purposeful, which is something you can expect from all of the competitors to some degree here today, as it is the championship after all. But that level of execution was pretty phenomenal. And now we're going into our 3rd of 5 games for our first lobby to continue accumulating as many points as possible to make that top 4 to move on to tomorrow's finals. But as we head into it, looks like we'll be going to another galaxy for the very first time today. Krohn, when it comes to the trade sector, what are some things you think we can be looking out for with that extra rolling potential?
You know, you mentioned earlier, talking to Becca, about the comps we haven't seen yet. One comp that we have not seen, and I'm not sure that we will, is Battlecast. I know some people do like it, a lot of people don't, but if we're going to see it, it might be on Trade Sector. It's also good for comps like Master Yi Reroll and things like that, but it definitely will change the pacing of the game to whereas you're not going to have that much money early game. You're going to be rolling, picking up all those units. It's going to be harder to make that econ to 10 and then subsequently 20, 30, etc. So the pacing of the game, we'll see if players will be able to adjust to.
That's true. I think this is the Galaxy where we'll see the most different comps because people won't be as hesitant to play reroll comps. I agree.
Yeah.
It would be great to see some other things coming out here. You mentioned the Battlecast composition. I know you were talking briefly during that last game about Cass, because she did get a buff to the damage on her ability across all 3 levels. Of course, you do still have to wait for that damage to set into effect over the duration of time, but that can be some pretty heavy output should you get Battlecast to where it needs to be.
Yeah, if you're going for Battlecast, you're going to be prioritizing that Kog'Maw itemization first, but if you do get a couple of tiers and Amarellos, you know, putting those onto the Cassiopeia can definitely be a great secondary threat there. We even see with BOBAE here getting a couple of gold from the last, neutral round, grabbing that Graves and Alawi. We might actually be able to see a Battlecast game here. A couple of Nocturnes as well, another Alawi in the shop. Not sure if that's the direction he's looking, but it's at least going to be a consideration, I'm sure.
I think the last unit, so, I mean, you need Graves as well, right? I think he would pick up, okay, I'm excited then. Let's go. I want him to pick up, I was hoping he would pick up the belt there so he could have the red buff and really want to go this comp.
Ooh.
Oh, but he's getting them upgrades.
Yeah, tier 2 Graves, tier 2 Malphite. This is pretty strong. The items aren't going to be amazing if BOBAE does want to go into those Battlecasts. You're going to want red buff for sure. You're going to want Static Shiv for Kog'Maw and another item on top of that as well. But a couple of swords and a vest. I wonder what he's going to do with that.
Yeah, hopefully he can get maybe some bows or something to work into that, maybe a hurricane. Of course, static being one of the priorities if he finds the Kog'Maw. Looking across the board to what else could potentially be run. A little bit of rebel action on the opposite side, and mostly just kind of rolling with what he was offered for this matchup at the start.
Yeah, I think with the 2 swords, and a chain vest, I think I feel good going any kind of blaster build, like Jinx, Rebels.
Yep.
Even like the 4 brawler builds until you get to the late game Rebels.
Yeah, I'm curious to pick your guys' brains because Blaster Brawler is actually, and from a fun sense, one of my favorite in that, but obviously it doesn't always do that well in competitive unless you kind of play it right. So, Becca, speaking on that, and you're saying that we could maybe see that composition come through, what do you think are the keys to making that a composition that can actually top 4?
I think having really good items on Jinx helps a lot. Having the ASOL 2 helps a lot. Having the GA. I mean, I think it does feel like you need really, really, really great items to play a comp like Rebels or Blasters. While with other comps, you only need like maybe like 2 or 3 specific items. So yeah, I agree. It does feel harder to play in competitive against a lot of really good players.
Yeah, and adding on to that, I think just having a good early game, start to go for that is very important as well. And while BOBAE may lose this round, I mean, having an Alawi 2, Graves 2, and Malphite 2 early definitely, puts you at least thinking about that direction. So as soon as BOBAE finds some blasters and items to really go on those, like maybe you could pick up a red buff or a Giant Slayer from this upcoming carousel, and Lucian right there in the shop. So already naturally levels to 4 here. I would be surprised if he doesn't put that one in. Yeah, it does so right there. Even slaps a Deathblade, so I guess going in for the red buff afterwards, I see. I think BOBAE is pretty strong here in a good spot to go into that Rebel composition.
A lot of work being put kind of from the balancing side to get Lucian to be a potential mid-game carry, whether you're going for cybernetics. It's always nice to get that early blaster, whether you end up sticking with it or not, just because the Graves is easy to come across early. Maybe a little Pirate if you come across for some of that extra gold, but should be feeling pretty good having some transitional champions here.
Yeah, definitely. You see that little graphic on Deathblade there. As soon as, Lucian's going to be able to get some kills, he's going to be even stronger for the rest of the fight. And yeah, he's just shredding through these units right now with the help of that Blaster synergy. So again, BOBAE in a good spot here. And even doesn't, probably won't pick last here for the carousel, depending on if Obo or LevD will lose this round. LevD does, but okay, so it's another 50-50, actually 33% chance to see who picks here.
Coming into the carousel round.
Having an item like the one he just made is really good with how beefy his frontline, because he does have all those upgrades. So it just gives him so much time to ramp up the damage without dying. So he's looking like he's just going to streak into a good late game.
Oh, for sure. I believe, even grabs a belt there, so has the red buff. Oh man, this is such a good start. Man, BOBAE. I wouldn't be surprised if it's, I'll be too hesitant to say it's another first right now, but at least a top 4, I would assume from this point.
It is looking like a good top 4.
And when you already have one first place to get a lot of points, then even getting that consistency is good enough.
Yeah. Oh, a Vi pair right now. Becca, how do you feel about the Vi pair? Is that something that you would go for here?
Nope. I always end up selling it, and if I don't sell it, I end up regret not selling it. What about you?
Oh, I would not get baited by that. I have been before in the past, but I've resolved to never get baited by 3-cost pairs like this again. If it was a pair that gave BOBAE 4 brawlers right now, like if there was already a Blitzcrank, then maybe I'd be more tempted to, because you're going to want to fit a Vi in soon anyway to get that 4 brawler buff. But as of right now, I would just want to make Econ. BOBAE has 0 gold. I would at least want to make 10 at this point in the game on 2-5.
Yeah, it's just a little rough. I mean, not a hard decision to make, but he did roll a lot of cybers. He got the Fiora 2, the Leona 2, and he has a pair of Vi's, and he has a Bane in his shop, so it is a little rough. But he already slammed the Deathblade. He already went for the red buff. I think he just sticks to the plan now.
If he wasn't already so committed, I would be maybe questioning it a bit more, and does manage to roll. So there you go. The exact situation that would make it not worth. Yeah, all right. He baited us.
Man. The discipline there from BOBAE. Had the Vi upgrade potentially in the shop, re-rolled because he didn't want it, saw it again, it was like, no, I'm committed, I'm going to sell these Vi's, I want to make Econ. That just stresses the importance of how these top players prioritize Econ right now. You're going to want to get to 20 gold and then get up to 50 gold as fast as possible, and BOBAE really showing that good discipline there. I love seeing that.
That is actually so much discipline, because I feel like with the Vi 2, you have a slightly better chance of winning your rounds over like an Alawi 2 or even a Malf 2, whoever you decide to replace. So I'm actually so surprised at how much restraint he had.
Yeah, especially with how he was built. Or go ahead.
I was just going to say, especially with how we've talked about the fact that the Korean region players tend to play more aggressively and leveling up, but BOBAE's still on level 4 right now and hasn't leveled to 5 and is choosing to make Econ, so maybe it's a little bit of adjustment based off of the play style of everybody from the all over the world coming into this lobby, or perhaps it's just a specific play style.
Yeah, but he's actually playing Battlecast.
Yeah, I suppose we've all been baited. There's been rerolling for Alawi's and Graves and Nocturnes the whole time. That was the plan. We've just been outsmarted. BOBAE's too good.
Oh god, I hope he gets a bow here.
Give us the bow!
That would actually make a lot of sense why BOBAE didn't decide to level if BOBAE is going that Battlecast reroll. Having Deathblade in the Kog'Maw is pretty good. It's one of the items that is viable as a third item there. Finds a Cassiopeia and, is still rolling right now. Actually choosing to hyper-roll over going for that 50 gold slow roll strategy. And is really close to hitting and hits a Kog'Maw 2 right there, so it's gonna be pretty strong. Even if it does. Wait, what's that roll?
What?
Oh my... Wow.
Does end up getting the 3-star allow. Yeah, exactly. It rewarded. And we were talking, Crone, you're saying that we're expecting him to kind of be able to slam early and go for that aggressive style. We did see him start to slam items onto that Lucian, ended up transitioning into this Battlecast lineup, already up to 4 with still little blaster action.
It all makes sense now. This is the aggressiveness, the hyper rolling there,
Yeah.
hitting the Alawi, and then choosing at that point to level up to 5 to maintain that win streak. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I was just about to say, there's the aggressiveness. He hyper rolled and then
Yep.
he leveled.
It all makes sense now. It all clicks.
We're all just
it also
trying
feels
to guess the
so
whole
rewarding. When you're just rewarded for playing, I mean, I would say rerolling is the more risky play, but I guess it is trade sector. But it is still slightly more risky, right, than going something like a Jinx. So when you're rewarded during your roll down, it feels so good.
Yeah. Oh, definitely it is. And I mean, I suppose we see right now that BOBAE has stabilized, so perhaps during the next round I'd like to check out the perspective of perhaps SHOEMAKER, who's at the bottom of the lobby. And if you're sitting at the bottom of the lobby at this point, you might be a little bit concerned, especially in a very intense competitive format here, because you don't want to be like, oh, I'm going 8th this game. I at least want to make top 4, you know, I want to get into day number 2.
And at 59 HP in that bottom spot, it's a pretty decent spread between that and the top. Everyone's still in it, though, and have a chance to keep their hopes alive here in game number 3, facing off against OUBOOCE.
Yeah. OUBOOCE with that Darius 2 with the Gunblade. Gonna be pretty strong right now. Might take out the Kog'Maw?
Oh
No.
my god, the Battle Cast passive.
Battle cast too good. We see the strength of it right there. I mean, Kog'Maw tier 2'd, having 4 battle cast, that healing actually saved Kog'Maw so hard there. And BOBAE choosing to sell the Malphite, so is not committed to Malphite 3, even gets rid of that one to make 30 gold, continuing to like BOBAE's decisions here.
Yeah. Do you think he's going to go for the bow for static here? Because
Oh,
then
yeah,
it feels so much
100%.
better to play that Gnar for the CC.
Yeah. Oh, definitely 100%, I think, with already having, you know, 6 Kog'Maws right now. Static Shiv's going to be the item that you are going to lean towards for the 3rd item Kog'Maw. I would definitely want to see that. Although, BOBAE is at the top of the standings right now in terms of HP, in this game at least, so will he be able to get a bow remains to be the question.
That is the difficulty, and as far as trying to get to a larger Kog'Maw, he's still in a good position to roll for that, so at least you have one of those having a little less variability, but still not guaranteed, and some difficulty right now going against this Demolish
streak.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so because he is going to be a later pick, what item do you guys think he'll go for here?
Let's see, what are his options?
Depends on what's left. There is no bow here,
Oh,
actually, so
yeah.
it's going to need to be something else. There's, what, a couple of cloaks, 3 tiers right now. You already have one. I mean, it could be a blue buff for Cassiopeia. We were talking about it before. The Cassiopeia buffs, if she's able to get a blue buff and perhaps see Morello's later, she can be very strong as a secondary carry.
And she can always hold the items for Victor, and you switch over to Victor. I actually like. I feel like I had to experiment with that, whether it's worth selling, and it seems like it's always worth selling the Cassio to put the items onto
Yeah.
Victor. What do you guys think?
I think the Victor being very item dependent plays into that, but a lot of it probably depends on, you know, kind of how much work your Cassiopeia has been putting in that place, and kind of that reward if you've gotten yourself into a strong transitional period.
Yeah, I think that if you get the Victor 2, especially at that point, I would like to. But, you know, if we're going to be comparing a Cassiopeia 2 to a Victor 1, I would maybe prefer to keep that Cassio 1 at that point. But yeah.
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
So I haven't really been able to keep up with what the other players have been playing or have been building in this lobby. So looks like Mystic Vanguard here so far.
Yeah. Maybe we'll actually see a committed player to a Mystic Vanguard composition throughout the whole game. I don't think we have seen that so far yet, at least. But Voltario, I mean, is in first place right now with this Vanguard Mystic. Does get taken out by BOBAE's Battlecast, though. So we'll still be at the top of the lobby, though.
Yeah, I think VOLTARIUX did play 4 Vanguard, 4 Mystics in the rehearsal games yesterday, so he is comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I think he even bumped up to... He may have been the one that was running 6 at one point. And I believe in the first game that got him to that first spot position, he was running a lot of Vanguard early, which allowed him to maintain a lot of HP going through.
Definitely. Nearing some more of these 3 stars right now is BOBAE. Only needs 3 more Graves, 2 more Nocturnes, 1 more Kog'Maw. I think being this close to the Kog'Maw 3 at this point in the game is so huge. Like, you're probably at least, like, usually 4 or 5 Kog'Maws away, honestly, at this point. But we actually see SHOEMAKER going for the Shredder Xayah composition on the other side here. We have not seen that too much, but it is trade sector, so we will see more reroll comps.
Interesting, and it is hitting pretty hard right now. The speed just a little too much to outpace what BOBAE was bringing to the table, so going to take a loss in this case. But still a decent amount of econ to hit on, like you said, positioned very well to be able to get a 3-star Kog'Maw, which will be a big spike for him should he arrive there.
Yep. Naturally hits a couple units there.
As far as checking in on the state of everyone's game, everybody still in it, and I'm sure we'll get a chance to check on some of those other compositions. But Blade Master, being that we're seeing the Shredder variant, Crowan, Blade Masters are so popular right now. Are there any players in this lobby that you expect to go in that direction consistently? I know we have some in the second lobby to do so.
Yeah, definitely in the second lobby. I'm not sure if many of these players will. I know that ACHEN does play that composition. We've saw OUBOOCE last game play Blade Masters as well, but we haven't seen many players really going for that Xayah. I know it's trade sector, so it's a whole kind of new meta there, and it even could be a strong composition to win the lobby potentially.
Yeah, he does have the Xayah items too. It's hard not to get tempted into going in this direction with the items and on this Galaxy.
Oh yeah, definitely. I wonder what the third item here for the Xayah is going to be. Whether it be a defensive item, maybe there's a GA potential right now with the items that SHOEMAKER does have on the bench here, but where are these tiers going to go after that?
Is it the Hodge?
Oh, it's a Hodge, yeah, okay, it's a Hodge instead. Triple offensive, kind of, or 50-50%, you know, defensive, depending on if the Hodge
Where do you
rolls
guys like to position her? Position Xayah.
I think I kind of like the little like far right cubby in the second row for Xayah, unless there's, you know, specific other compositions that are placing to counter that. But I do generally like that position. Xayah doesn't need to ever like have to walk up there. The only time she has to walk is if it's to the left side of the board, so she's going to be relatively safe. Jarvan and Shen could be protecting her, like this like this positioning right here actually that SHOEMAKER is going to be working with. Jarvan buffing the attack speed is going to be huge.
Especially with this offensive itemization, not going for the GA, which would have added a bit of that defensive capability, then make up for it with this positioning. Do like it, get that damage output, but actually decided to move back, but still ended up positioning the protective units around her as well, which is key.
Yep. Got baited there at the SHOEMAKER positioning, but let's see if it's going to work out.
That's what he wants his opponents to do, get baited.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is actually like along that line. Maybe he plays positions like that during the preparation phase of the rounds, so his opponent will try to counter that positioning, and then kind of, you know, 5-head 200 IQs, places them in the back row to kind of trick them there, and it works out this round against VOLTARIUX. Those Vanguard Mystics getting shredded by that Xayah.
And yeah, I guess I used to also like the second row positioning. But with maybe like Nautiluses or Rumbles, I feel like she just gets CC'd up there or dies too early. So I've been like curious how other people like to position her nowadays.
Yeah, definitely subjective to the lobby.
Blade Masters in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super good.
And
sorry, go ahead.
I was just thinking about what VOLTARIUX was running in that last round, and we were talking so much about Battlecast and Cassiopeia, and it looked specifically like he had itemization to get the cast off as soon as possible, but because of that damage duration, couldn't actually finish him off. Whereas here on this side, we're seeing Xayah does get a bit stunned out right now, delaying the rest of the damage output, but in the end, as soon as she's back online, that speed has been so effective, and can't even get another last ultimate off from Syndra, so Lev D taking the loss in that round.
Yeah, Lev D with Star Guardians. They're gonna see Star Guardians come out once again. Looking pretty strong, but not strong enough for the Xayah right now. I think the Syndra will outscale the Xayah as the game goes on, though, and that will get one shot at some point.
Yeah, especially how close that was in those final moments. You got to think once Syndra is a bit stronger, able to get an additional cast off, then you're not going to be as worried in those situations, especially as the rest starts to do the same effect.
definitely. Check out this carousel here. SHOEMAKER, I believe, went for a vest there. Is actually the only player in the lobby on a win streak right now. That's an interesting thing to note.
I mean, what do you think he's playing? I mean, what do you think he's building now? Going for?
It might just be, if my eyes not deceive me, just a Frozen Heart on the Shen or something, just some tanky items. Like, you already have your triple offensive item Xayah. I know some players do like to itemize, say, like a Master Yi as a secondary carry, but yeah, it was that chain vest, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a Frozen Heart slam here, wanting to maintain that win streak, earning a bunch of gold going into the Raptor round, maybe pushing levels at this point to level 9. I know other players of 6BM compositions, like Mismatch Socks, we will see later, does enjoy pushing level 9 when he can, and I think SHOEMAKER is in a good position to do just that.
And he's sitting on those extra Shens on the bench, working into the 3-star that, so having him just be such a hefty tank to try and distract as much from this Xayah as possible will have an impact once he's able to level that up.
With this comp, I always find it hard to get to 9, but he is on that juicy streak. So at 9, what do you guys think is the best finishing units, the best couple finishing units for this comp? Thresh?
Yeah, I would lead towards a Thresh. It's kind of interesting because usually when we see that, it's with the Master Yi kind of 3 Rebel carry, and so we're going to see like a couple of infiltrators in the form of Zed plus like an Echo or a Fizz, maybe even like an Aurelion Soul for more Rebels. But with the Xayah preference, I think it's a lot more just subjective, I suppose, more fluid based off of what these players' preferences are. But I think that strong units, are those ones like Thresh, perhaps an Echo, perhaps maybe even something like an Urgot or a Janna, something of the sort. There is a Vanguard Mystic player here. Janna, allowing, or just Vanguard players rather, if Janna will allow that magic damage to come through, it'll be really strong. So it's kind of just depending on the lobby.
Yeah, do you think that Mystic is even worth going for when your team is this squishy though? If the lobby comes down to a lot of magic damage, would you go for Mystic here or no?
I guess I suppose I think back to a game that I had a while ago where I was running 6 BMs, but I actually dropped down to 3 BMs and put 4 Mystics in, and it made the difference into a magic damage composition. So I think that is something that players will keep in mind. I'm not sure that players would go that route, but I think that it is viable and perhaps a viable transition at that point as well.
Especially if we end up seeing more things like the Star Guardians, depending on how those final lobbies are. We are back with VOLTARIUX, and this is the...
He does have the Mord 3 with the Dragon's Claw.
Speaking of keeping yourself alive against magic damage, that's something that'll do it.
Oh, for sure. And the Cassiopeia having a Giant Slayer, having a little bit of discussion during rehearsal yesterday about the, third item preferential in the Cassio, but it seems like more players are leaning towards that Giant Slayer. What are your thoughts, Becca, about that?
Yeah, I feel like I had started liking, okay, he just sold the Cassio, he's playing the Sniper. I like this a lot better, honestly. I feel like it's so much better to be playing Astro Snipers than, So he's going to be building the tank items on the Mord. Okay, I like where he's at. I know that there was a comp that got really popular recently with Mordekaiser 3 being a focus, right?
Yeah, some Vanguard-based composition getting a very strong frontline. Mordekaiser does seem to kind of just like never die at some points, and he'll be a huge frontline here. Even going against BOBAE's Battlecast, like Mordekaiser's still full HP as a tank into over half the way through this round. Is dropping eventually, but I think that's due to the lack of, Teemo 2 and damage from Voltario here.
And Teemo got popped pretty early there.
Yeah, I think they end up building the Gunblade on him, on the Mordekaiser 3. But I don't know. I've never been brave enough to play it. So he's holding the Nars to try to transition out of Bard.
Oh, nice.
Ooh.
Nice.
Hits the Teemo. That's huge.
Yeah, that last round even would have went differently if Teemo was able to stick around just a little bit more, because Jin on his own was able to do so much, but we'll have to see how this next one goes. That 3-star Mord is just... it survived so long, even after so many other units dropped off, so you can imagine how much he's just going to absorb from this pressure.
OUBOOCE running 4 pirates on the other side here, but is 11 HP, so could potentially fall this round. Is that a little bit too
He's
greedy?
getting some items.
He is getting items, but it doesn't matter when you're dead.
Live.
I think that's it. Yeah, it's falling, actually. I think that was exact lethal, yeah. Stage 5 base damage, and then 6 damage from the units there. OUBOOCE unfortunately falls in 8th there. Space Pirates not going to be worth it there.
Unfortunate. I don't recall exactly what OUBOOCE was able to get during the second game, but I know he got 8th in the first. Becca, you were wondering if he was going to be able to do the run back that he did in the qualifier with not such a great start, but picking it up later. But maybe a little too deep at this point in the bottom of the pool.
That just reminded me of whenever I try to play Space Pirates. I finally start getting items, but I'm dead.
Yeah.
So I'm a little traumatized right now.
Yeah, running it when you're behind is so much of a risk. I think OUBOOCE actually did get 7th in game number 2, so going 8th, 7th, and 8th again does not bode well for OUBOOCE's chances. I don't even know if a double first from this point would be able to be enough.
Without that point differential between first and second too, right? So
Yeah.
there's not as much of a point spike opportunity for him to just climb back in.
Depends on other placements of players in the lobby, though, so can keep holding out hope. I'm not going to make any conclusive statements right now. We'll see after all 5 games. But man, Voltario just eliminating multiple players right now. First OUBOOCE and now CALCIFER dropping in 7th. VOLTARIUX is really on a hot streak right now. Not literally, but seemingly strong, or strength-wise.
Yeah, there were two players on winning streaks, and now no one is. And the lobby is actually really close, with the exception of 6th place. It's really anyone's game.
ACHEN falling to 8 HP at this point, so might have some difficulty in trying to make that top 4 with Lovedy and SHOEMAKER still looking fairly healthy in comparison. Ended up grabbing a crit gauntlet actually off of the carousel.
Yeah, that's huge for Teemo right there. Yeah. Gonna be saving up to go level 9 in a really good spot here. Although the HP is, like, you know, as we were saying, it's pretty similar for all these players, so it could be anyone's game depending on the upgrades found. And there's a GP2 and Echo 2, so people are getting to their peak levels of strength in this lobby at this point.
You know how people say you don't know what you have until it's gone?
Yeah.
So, just looking with Volt, just scouting the lobby and seeing just random 3-star units that you normally wouldn't see in your games, I think I'm gonna miss Galaxies. It's nice because you wouldn't see that in any other Galaxy. Yeah. But with Trade Sector, you get to see random Mordekaiser 2s, Graves 3s, sorry, Mordekaiser 3, Nico 3 easily.
Yeah, I do enjoy the variation that it brings, because it doesn't feel too much where it's like, I gotta learn a whole different game just in this Galaxy, but it's just enough to have that variation. VOLTARIUX ended up taking a loss in that round, though.
Yeah. Everyone else still strong in this lobby as well. Going back to the points of the Galaxies, you know, I love just the change of pace that Galaxies like Trade Sector does bring to the game. And I would hope, you know, maybe some of these mechanics from Galaxies would be a more permanent addition to TFT in the future, but we'll see in that regard, because I think it makes games very, very interesting.
We are officially in the top 5 here. ACHEN has been knocked out. So one more player to miss out on that top 4 finish soon enough.
Oh, yeah, SHOEMAKER going up against the Astro Snipers here. The Xayah is still strong, but Teemo and Jin look like they're going to be a bit stronger. This Teemo Shrooms coming out does finish that round. SHOEMAKER takes a bit of a loss.
Xayah was making her way through a lot of those units so effectively, but by the time she was able to finally focus on the 2 snipers in the back, it was a little too late. The itemization for Teemo is looking so strong. He's even got the second one here on the bench, so still trying to work towards that 3-star. We're going to go ahead and check in with BOBAE now, who has been performing very consistently as well throughout this lobby.
Wait. This is still a Cogma 2. We were 1 Cogma away so long ago, and it has not been found yet. But still, BOBAE's at 40 HP and in a good spot to win the lobby if he hits that. But man, how this game would have been different. I keep saying that phrase, I guess. How would it have been different if that Cogma was hit?
So going back to the last fight, the reroll Xayah versus the Astro Snipers, it's so hard for Xayah to kill both Jhin and Teemo, because even if the fight goes in her favor and she starts hitting the Jhin early or something, the Teemo is usually on the other side or far away, so she's still getting hit by another carry. So it is a really hard matchup, I think, for the Xayah reroll, and he hit it. Nice.
Yeah, he
Finally.
Yeah.
Man, and hit the Gnar too as well, so multiple upgrades there for BOBAE. Going against the Voltario with still 40 gold, so maybe that power spike of spending on that gold will help here.
Maybe we'll see exactly the situation you're talking about, Becca, that people don't like to see. Just that Gnar ulting into Teemo's room.
Yeah.
This Mordekaiser is so tanky though, but it doesn't matter. Not tanky enough.
Oof, that was a huge loss.
Yeah, starting to hit so hard at this point. Still 40 HP though, and at the top of the lobby here with 30. So it's kind of that even trickle down from first to fifth. So really anyone's take. No streaks anywhere.
Yeah. Looking at the HP values of the players in this lobby, you know, we have 2 players in 4th and 5th, tied for 21, SHOEMAKER right above that at 22, so it's still very neck and neck here as we enter, well, we continue in stage 6.
So he's still at 4 battle casts. He doesn't have a victor on his bench. I mean, he's working towards 6, right?
I would assume so, but perhaps not.
Yeah,
probably
it's a
would
little
have found
hard
a victor
to fit
by
this
now.
in. Yeah.
Oh, the Urgot eating the Kog'Maw there. That's huge.
Oh, the source of his power just completely devoured, and it looked so sad on the board after that point, right? Because obviously if the Kog'Maw was around a little longer, he would have gotten some more of those units off. But the sad truth is it also means that he gets hit just that much harder.
Yeah,
that's like a thresh positioning difference with like the thresh in front of the Kog'Maw. Or in a position to get the Kog'Maw with Urgot,
Yeah, speaking of big hits though, HAZTE took a big hit and actually got eliminated from 21 HP, so whoever he faced there was certainly strong. Wait, does Voltario have Teemo 3? Is that what I see right now, I think, the brief scouting? Pretty sure that's what that was.
Oh, now that would be a very scary thing. And Voltario, because HAZTE ended up getting knocked out, Voltario is the only other one at 21 HP, marked all the way up to the second in the lobby. We do finally see Ajana having that effect as these Sorks start hitting pretty hard. And we did get confirmation that there is a Teemo 3 being run by VOLTARIUX, so...
Oh, BOBAE, oh man, falls. The Star Guardians. Man, gonna be stronger than that composition there.
Yeah, I feel like that comp just falls off a lot without the six battle casts.
Yeah, it does. Without 6 battle casts, actually, you know, it's good to get into top 4. Could have been a little bit stronger. Again, referencing back to the delay on hitting that Kog'Maw 3. If he just had a little bit more HP, could have maybe top 2'd this game. I'm not sure would have resulted in a win, but like, are you gonna win versus a Teemo 3? Look at this guy, like.
That is so scary. Probably the least scariest looking unit besides Lulu if you actually look at their physical modeling. But then you look at those items and the 3-star status and you think, my, oh my, I do not want to walk into this territory. Jhin on the opposite side too, we've seen a lot of those items through and through. But as Becca mentioned before, the positioning being very key with these snipers, constantly switching them back and forth too to try and keep his opponents on their toes.
Yeah, huge shroud here. The Mordekaiser are going to be shrouding basically the whole team there.
Yeah, I think Mort was saying that Teemo 3 is one of the highest win rate 3-stars.
Oh yeah.
Besides Victor, which we also saw earlier today.
A lot of 3-stars. I mean, this is a trade sector, so like it's more reasonable to see it here. You know, Voltario earlier. Actually, yeah, Voltario was the one to get the Victor 3 earlier.
He was.
The RNG today for Voltario is really, really on his side. That's crazy.
All
he
right,
could
so
be walking away with another one, you know?
Yeah, does anyone want to bet on Teemo 3 losing this round?
Oh no. The odds of that bet are not worth it at all.
It would have to be like some crazy odds type reward, right? To be willing to put yourself on the pretty much guaranteed losing side of that bet.
But SHOEMAKER making it to top 2 again. Really good for Japan. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I was unsure of how Japan would perform in this tournament, but SHOEMAKER really making a name for himself right now, proving that, you know, reroll Xayah is still viable, even though it is on trade sector. It's still pretty good. Maybe could win the round. The Teemo did get polyed.
Yeah, for a sec, there's a song.
Oh, no, got eaten! Wait! Huh? No one took the bet. No one took the bet.
No!
Okay, doesn't fall here,
None
though.
of us were brave.
I suppose we forgot about the Urgot factor there on the side of SHOEMAKER. Urgot is a unit that can counter literally anything and eat it, and having an Urgot 2, I believe, on the bench at least. Yeah, okay, has it on the bench there, has the Thresh 2 to pull in an Urgot 2 and a Wukong 2. Get a little bit of reprieve here with the Rift Herald, players getting items. Could the fight actually go in the way of SHOEMAKER again?
I think he just places Teemo in the middle now so that he's much less likely to get Urgot ulted. Yeah.
Oh, super agree.
I really think it's going to come
Voltario
down to that positioning.
Yeah. Will he recognize that is the question, I think. Voltario is a really strong player. We saw really good moves in the late game out of game 1, so will he do the same adjustments, the same winning play kind of adjustments right now?
Oh yeah, I imagine this is going to be one of those kind of down to the wire, keeping the watch, make those last changes, and hope that your opponent doesn't catch on to it. Especially considering that there are things like Shrouds in play here as well, not just units that have an advantage in certain positioning. But we'll have to see. Last round.
All right, let's see. Aurelia jumps onto the Jhin.
SHOEMAKER also got his Thresh on the opposite side of Teemo again, so it's like if the Urgot comes in, he's dead. The Teemo is dead.
Urgot didn't come in yet though. Thresh pulled in the Wukong
yeah, he didn't.
first.
Yeah. Oh no, I think he had to sell that Wukong, but he's still winning.
It's still good enough, maybe. Yeah. Wow.
Holy moly,
Teemo 3
okay.
is losing.
Okay, that was so unexpected.
Yeah, Teemo 3, it's not like he was killed by the Urgot right away. Did get polymorph there in the final second, but even before that happened, it felt like it was already done in the favor of the opponent. Becca, you see a little surprise there. We were all expecting Teemo 3 to just take the victory.
I really didn't expect Xayah reroll to beat Teemo 3. I actually am at a loss.
Yeah, okay, if I could bring up a point, real quick. We were talking about what you would put in at level 9 or like level 8 or 9 with that composition there. And the Thresh, as you mentioned, Becca, was absolutely key. And that's actually what ended up making the difference in that fight. You wouldn't expect Teemo 3 to lose, but those little bits of decision-making came out on top for SHOEMAKER there. So super impressive stuff there.
Yeah, SHOEMAKER securing the win, but even though others didn't necessarily get the win, VOLTARIUX, for instance, he did manage to get one earlier, so it's really starting to get extremely tight here in the final moments. We did almost see a Battlecast comp go all the way to 6. It was mostly not being able to find any room to get it to that 6th level, but considering we were looking to call that out beforehand, we're all excited to see some of that variation, especially with what Trade Sector brought to the table.
Yeah, I think it's so nice seeing different comps being played on different galaxies. Obviously, that sounds so obvious to say, but the galaxies really allow for players to be more open and flexible depending on the galaxy, especially on galaxies like Trade Sector where you can just keep rolling for the units that you need. So it's really refreshing to see people play different comps.
And it's obviously fun for us because we do get to see a lot of those 3-star units that we don't always entirely get to because it's Trade Sector. And interestingly enough, we have some players that are going pretty consistently, some that are struggling in the bottom, but luckily for us, we do have some Galaxy brains on by to help break this down. So let's hear from OUBOOCE, who's joined by Whitrock.
Hey, thanks, LaTigris. All right, we're 3 games in, and we're going to talk about some of the key moments that we saw in each of these games. So first, we have our Game 1 winner, VOLTARIUX, and I want to talk about how he got to this Victor 3. Here's the beginning of the round. He had 63 gold here at level 9, and this really is a testament to understanding when you need to execute. It's 6-1, and he doesn't decide to stay at 50 and slow roll for that Victor. He says, this is the time for me to finish up this composition. Hits the Wukong 2, hits the Xerath 2, and keeps rolling, hits that Xerath 3, and as you saw from the rest of the broadcast, that's what ends up running away with the game. I mean, he immediately has a fight here where he just blows out BOBAE, but really stresses the importance of both playing your strongest board in this game. VOLTARIUX was playing, honestly, a kind of non-meta build, this 4 Vanguard Victor. He kind of looked like he was pursuing kind of Jace carry at one point, but really executing when he needed to win that game. Then we see BOBAE's win from game number 2. This is 2 big points. Quickly at the beginning there, we saw his little trick with Xin Zhao, decides to sell it so he can get better Zephyr positioning, but really BOBAE just showing off one of the strongest meta comps, which is that Star Guardian. Finally, let's talk about SHOEMAKER. SHOEMAKER playing that Shredder reroll Xayah build on Trade Sector Galaxy, but look at this good scouting by him. Understands that BOBAE is one of his key opponents here, and one of the only players that can eliminate him in this lobby. So doing his due diligence here, showing the importance of the fact that he needs to position here more than figure out like how can he continue to upgrade his composition. First decides how he's going to use his Shroud, one of the most important things when you're thinking about positioning against your opponents, but also repositions the Thresh. This is key because this Thresh is very likely to pull in one of these 2 Urgots, and this is the best angle that Urgot is going to have to get that Kog'Maw, and there you go, the 1-star Urgot eating the Kog'Maw. That was not random, that was not, him getting lucky, that was him diligently scouting his opponent and setting up the best opportunity for him to beat one of his strongest opponents. That kept him in the game, kept him healthy, and then we see the final battle that he has to kind of finish off this game against VOLTARIUX, really securing a strong victory and understanding how to stay strong. He has good positioning in this fight as well, knows how to avoid and play around this Teemo 3, so congrats to SHOEMAKER in Game 3 as well. Some awesome competition, and I'm so excited to see more games.
Whitrock, thank you so much for that galaxy-brained analysis, really breaking down those first 3 games. But that being said, 3 games down, only 2 left to go. What are your predictions for those final 2 games? Who do you think are going to be the players to watch to make it out?
So we've really seen kind of this lobby separate from each other. There clearly are some bottom players who are struggling, which means we're left with some key players at the top. And the one to highlight the most is VOLTARIUX. He's, I think, top forward. Each of the lobbies has really great placements, really great points, and has shown, I think, some of the best flexible play. So I'm excited to keep an eye on him.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much. Let's go ahead. VOLTARIUX is great, but let's go ahead and look at our Game 3 winner once again, and that was SHOEMAKER. And I mean, in Game 1, it was SHOEMAKER and VOLTARIUX going at each other, but this time in Game 3, SHOEMAKER is the one who comes out on top, picking up the first place points for him in this Game 3, which is very important because as we go ahead and take a look at the standings, we only have 2 games left for people to be racking up the points. And there we have VOLTARIUX at the top with 20 points in the lead. SHOEMAKER following right behind at 18. BOBAE at 16. HAZTE at 16 as well. And come on, NA, man. You do this in League. You can't do it in TFT too. OUBOOCE all the way at the bottom with just a handful of points. I was hoping TFT was going to be NA's esport, but unfortunately it's looking like EU and Japan this time, which is actually pretty interesting. Again, guys, 3 games down. We have 2 more to go in this first lobby to determine the first 4 finalists that will be moving on to Day 2. I'm very excited to get into those games. And yes, I am aware that OUBOOCE is indeed OSH, but he did qualify through the NA-OSH pairing. But that's going to be it for us for this first part. We are going to have those 2 games coming up shortly, so stick around because you are not going to want to miss the action.